Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, June 8th meeting of the Bennington Select Board. We are coming to you from the third floor multi-purpose room of the Bennington Fire Facility at 130 River Street in Bennington. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some members of the public might be attending online using Zoom. The webinar ID to join the Zoom meeting is 895-8796-9602 and is also listed on the agenda. Those participating online may raise their hand to be recognized during those times that public comment is allowed. When recognized, online participants are required by the same public comment rules as those who are here in person, and I will review when it comes time for public comment. Meantime, my name is Tom Haley. I have the honor of chairing this board. I will ask my fellow board members to introduce themselves, starting with Ed.
Good evening, I'm Ed Woods.
Hi, I'm Nancy White.
Hello, my name is Jim Sullivan.
And I'm Jackie Metz.
Also with us this evening is Nancy Lively, who is preparing to take the usual excellent minutes. We have Tabor Coulter from Cat TV, who will be keeping the public aware via video, who just walked out of the room for some reason. We have Dan Monks, town manager. We have David Conwell, who... We have just about all of town staff is here today. We have Jonas Spivak, who's monitoring the Zoom feed. I see Assistant Town Manager Shannon Barsati in the audience. Anyone that I forgot? Okay, very good. We'll begin this evening, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Jackie, would you mind leading us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ed, I'm going to spring it on you. Would you mind reading the vision statement that guides our work?
Bennington is a welcoming, engaged, inclusive, resilient community where everyone, regardless of identity, shares in our vitality and benefits from an outstanding quality of life.
Thank you very much. Next is our consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of May 11th and May 18th, the warrants and the licenses. Since the same board member that was absent on May 11th is absent this evening as well, I don't think we need to break that up. So, could I, for the purpose of discussion, have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
On the warrants, page 2, 405648 Berkshire Concrete. Light Pole Skateboard Park, $340, $800. Is this coming out of the town budget?
So that 405648, is that the number you're looking at?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Why is it not coming out of the money in the Pennies for Park, $300,000, that we still have money left from, that the board authorized Shannon to use a few years ago?
Well, it may, Nancy, but this is where it's coming out until any journal entries are made by our accountant, by our finance director. So certainly we could consider putting that into the, using the reserve funds for that. But if you recall, the DPW folks developed a form for light poles that are concrete that saves us $6,000 per pole. This is one of those light poles. It's not unique to the skate park.
I appreciate saving the money, but I don't want to charge the taxpayers when the board approved taking the taxpayer money from Pennies for Parks for the board.
This would have been replacing an existing one. It wouldn't be just one for the skate park itself.
Okay, but it's at the skateboard park.
Yes.
Also, on page 5, 405681, Lamar Companies billboard contract, a total of $3,960.60. Is this the billboard the town and the BBC will be going in on?
Yes.
Okay. The Select Board has never had a public discussion.
Can we have a call to order, please? She has a question on
Call
the
to
warrant.
order
She'd like
why?
to know more about it. That should be the end of the discussion.
I've already asked for it to be on the agenda. It's not on the agenda. How can I get answers? They won't put it on the agenda. I can't bring it up in other business.
Do you have, this particular thing is well within the purview of staff. We don't have to vote on every single thing that staff does. In fact, if we did do that, then it would take an eternity for us to get through our meetings.
I just overheard Jonah remind us that it's part of the marketing budget.
Right.
It has also been in his marketing report at least twice, if not 3 times.
Okay. Is this coming out of the $40,000 a year our taxpayers get charged? That goes to the BBC?
No.
The BBC will give, no, this is the town's marketing budget, and half of that money will come back to the town from the BBC.
Okay. But I think it was 8 or 9 years ago, the Select Board held public discussions and voted to charge our taxpayers $40,000 a year. I believe that money goes to the BBC to advertise Bennington.
We also have a marketing budget within the town.
Perhaps.
Yeah. We're splitting that cost with the BBC from the town's advertising budget, and the BBC will be kicking in their share as well out of the downtown improvement. You're referring to the downtown improvement tax, I'm assuming?
You said
That
what?
funds the BBC, the downtown?
We're talking about the billboard
Right.
expense.
Yeah, but the money she's talking about is the money that we allocate.
I just
out of
don't
the-
understand how the BBC doesn't have it in their $100,000 budget, and with the $40,000 we give them.
This is misinformation, Nancy.
Right.
We don't-
Regardless,
How is that
we'll be hearing from the
misinformation
BBC very shortly when they present their work plan to us at their next meeting. So that might be a good time for your answers to be questioned.
If you could take a mic, though? So, thanks.
I just wanted to clarify the statement that the $40,000, Nancy made the statement that the $40,000 town marketing budget goes to the BBC. That's not correct. That funding does not go to the BBC.
Where does the $40,000 go?
It goes to digital marketing for the town. So that includes social media marketing, things like buying Google,
And
Word
the
ads.
vendors,
so
and the
that-
vendors that we contract with to support us in those.
Exactly.
endeavors.
All the vendors that do that work for us for the digital marketing campaign, and none of that goes to the BBC. I just wanted to clarify that.
And I'll find the minutes from several years ago. I believe I heard the money would go to the BBC. Okay.
Okay. Anyone else? Jackie?
Thank you. On page 3, 405660, I see some repairs to the police department roof. I know we talked about those previously. I was just wondering if that's, if the roof is now in good repair, or if there's additional repairs that are going to be needed there.
I'm looking for Paul. Can you, it's been repaired, correct, Paul? We're in good shape? It's probably a more complicated answer than that.
So the police department roof, the outer rubber membrane gutter, that was completely replaced. That was a final payment for that work.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
The other one was page 7, 45710 and 711, operating fees to State of Vermont Water, State of Vermont Agency for Natural Resources. What are those fees for?
So those are essentially licensing fees for our operating permit, both for wastewater and the water filtration,
Okay.
our water system and our wastewater system.
Do all towns that operate a facility like that
Yes,
have to?
all towns have to pay if they have a water and wastewater facility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? All right, then all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And any abstentions? Very good. Thank you very much. Next up is public comment. Public comment is a time in which the members of the public may share information which is useful to all. If you have something that's related to an actual agenda item, I'll ask you to wait for that agenda item to come up, at which point you will have an opportunity to speak. Please do keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. It is not a question and answer period, although if there are brief questions that we may address, we will do that at the end of the public comment period. So you can ask whatever questions you have, take your seat, and if it's brief enough, we will cover those questions. I have Bennington Youth Council on vacant ordinance. Are you here? Is that the vacant property ordinance? Yep. Yeah, we'll hold off on that then, please. Thank you. Jonah Spivak, 4th of July.
Hello, I'm Jonas Spivak, Communications Coordinator for the town of Bennington, and I just wanted to let people know that plans for the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence have been set. And for Bennington, that means our day starts really at 11 o'clock at the Bennington Battle Monument. There we're combining two long-time public ceremonies. That is the reading of the Declaration in its entirety with all its grievances by Mike Chapman, and combining that with the Rotary's bell ringing ceremony that traditionally happens right in front of the town offices. This year, it's all happening at the Battle Monument and is part of one larger combined ceremony event. That will go from, the reading starts at noon, and then at 1:30, we should be just finishing up with the bell ringing ceremony, and at that time, we'll be joined by the bells around town from St. Peter's, St. Francis, the town of Bennington, and one other, I'm blanking on it right now, but basically all the towns that all the buildings in town that have a bell that we can convince to ring with us at 1:30 on the 4th of July will be doing so. And by the way, if you have a working bell in your building and you've not yet heard from me, please do reach out. We'd love to include you in that as well. After that, at 2:30, there's a ceremony at the Bennington Battlefield. They're going to be doing what something is called a living tableau. That's basically a reproduction of a historical painting, in this case, the painting of the Declaration of Independence. And that is going to be happening at 2:30, and afterwards, they're also offering free hot dogs. That's not the end of it. The day then continues at 5 o'clock at Willow Park for what we're billing as America's birthday party. And we say that in part because the VFW has kindly partnered with us to provide free birthday cake as long as it lasts. I believe there's going to be at least 800 slices, so come on, get yours. That cake slicing starts at 6, but the actual events start at 5 p.m. at Willow Park. There's cloggers, there's going to be vendors, and at 6:30 p.m., that's when the live music starts. We've got Fourth Floor playing as well as the Mojo Birds, and to wrap it all up at 9:30 p.m., the biggest firework display we've ever done in Bennington. So I hope everyone's excited about that. This, our 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. The information did come out in the banner a few days ago, and it's also on the town's website, and we'll be giving updates when we get a little closer, but since there's only one more select board meeting prior to that, I wanted to make sure to let folks know tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonah. Mike Bethel, come on up, sir.
Thank you. I want to thank the select board.
Mike, if you identify yourself for the formality.
You just did, Mike Bethel.
Thank you.
Now you threw me way off base. I was going to say something nice about you. Now I'm not going to. Thank you for the select board and the BBC for kicking in some money to rent the billboards out in the West End, the billboard. I think it's going to do some good to bring some traffic off the highway. Manchester has 2 billboards out there, and they're not rented by the citizens, they're rented by the merchants. But if Manchester thinks that billboards out on the West End in New York, so nobody gets offended by being over the border in Vermont, I think we should have taken advantage of that a long time ago. I hope we do this next year. Got a late start this year, and it's going to be partial. But also what I'd like to say is we need, this select board and everybody needs to really concentrate, if you can, on shopping downtown, whether it's at the restaurants or the small gift shops or whatever, because it's been slow the last few summers. As you can see with the market, they didn't have enough business, obviously. I don't know if it was their business plan or whatever. I don't know if they're going to come back or not. But the select board also needs to have some kind of an explanation on what, to the public of Bennington, what's going on there. Because a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of our staff went into creating that. A lot of time. And they could have been doing something else, maybe for some private businesses. But I think one other thing, and I'll get out of here, is, Tom, I think you need to do, like Dan does at the end of his meeting, he does a manager's report. I'd like to see you or the vice chair to do a little report on the good things of Bennington. What's coming up? What's going to help relieve the grand list? You got the Eveready projects. You've got the what Bill Coleman's going to talk about if that ever comes into fruition. You've got a bunch of good stuff that you know about. The thing up on the mountain there with the old Southern Vermont College. If that ever gets on its way, it's going to help Bennington out a lot. And every time I go around town, all I hear is negative. Everything negative about Bennington. Well, I've lived here on and off my life for, I hate to say it, but 75 years. And I've always loved Bennington. Yes, we've had some downtimes, but not everything sucks in Bennington. And I think it's time. And Tom, you're a very good speaker, and you're very fun to talk to and everything else. You don't have to do it every week, but just a little thing of saying, hey, here's what's coming up. Don't be so gloomy, you know, because we do have to concentrate on the taxes and the cost of water and sewer. And you're going to get into that, I think, at the end of the month, correct? An explanation about option tax and stuff like that?
We have something scheduled for that on the 22nd.
Well, I am going to support it if you use it for the water and sewer. We need to get that down. But thanks for letting me talk, and it was real nice seeing you.
Thanks, Mike. And I'll point out again, as much as we appreciate your gratitude, the select board actually didn't have anything to do with the billboard. It was all the good hard work of our marketing people. Well,
but you let the money go out, even though that
right.
Shannon or
and I was going to point out that you were a driving force behind that idea. So if it fails, we'll blame you.
I just said some nice things about you, Tom. I want to see you after the meeting.
I appreciate you, Mike. Thanks. Joan, is there anyone online? Okay. Online person, please identify yourself and take it away.
Yes, can you hear me? Sam Rustino from Bennington.
Yeah, we hear you, Sam. Go ahead.
Oh,
yep.
Okay. Just some things that I want to say, and I know I already got an email on it, but it's for the viewers at home that really doesn't know what to do. You can challenge select board members. I hate to, I'm not mentioning any names, but the word subpoena comes to mind. I'll briefly summarize it. You know, what it costs our taxpayers if we're still involved into litigation. I don't expect an answer tonight, as you stated, that it's not a debate, it's not a discussion. But the point being is, with this email, I've got to wait until I receive those documents. And if it does go over a half an hour, then I have to submit monies for those documents before they're sent out. So, you know, the citizens of Bennington have the right to know what's going on instead of reading it online and getting misinformed. There's stuff that's going around town in Bennington. It hasn't been in the papers, but it's a little embarrassing that some select board members and past select board members have gotten subpoenaed. Please note, there's something in the town manager's report tonight that I want to speak of, and that's the artifact. I don't know what the artifact is, and I want to speak about that. And kindly be attentive of my hand raising, because I've been on on Zoom. So there's been other questions about the community market, and those are some of the issues. But I just want the people at home to know that I've requested those documents, and they can do too. So, but I can't release those documents until I receive them. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. I did follow up on your request, and I'm told you can expect your answer to your email forthwith. So, anyone that wishes to speak that didn't have, come on up, Ken.
Ken Millman, Bennington, Vermont. On Saturday, June 20th at 9 o'clock, the Walloomsac River and Downtown Walk will present the Bennington Unsung Hero Award to Mary Rogers. I encourage everybody to come. Mary's done incredible things for this community. After the ceremony, we're going to Haberdasher for wine and cheese tasting. It'll be 10 o'clock in the morning, but it's up to you if you want. But Mary Rogers is a great person. I'm sure everyone here knows who she is, or if you don't, you should come on the 20th at 9 a.m. at the skate park. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Anyone else? All right, very good. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda, vacant property ordinance review and possible adoption. As folks out there know, we have, this board has identified vacant properties in Bennington as being a priority. So this is one step in towards addressing that. So we'll bring up David Conwill and Paul Dansereau to present the proposal.
Good evening. I should also note that Jonah is going to be helping this evening as well. Some time ago, the Select Board tasked the town staff with developing an ordinance to address chronically vacant buildings in the downtown district. What Jonah is about to present to you in overview has existed in various drafts for some time. It's been revised repeatedly based on resident and landowner input. Once he's finished, he and I and Paul would be happy to answer any questions on the details of this proposed ordinance. And I just want to set out what it is the board can do with what they're being presented tonight, which is, one, the board can decide that this is no longer a policy they wish to pursue and direct us to drop this process. Two, the board can decide that the ordinance needs further change to properly reflect the will of the board, identify those to us, and direct us to revise the ordinance accordingly, which we will do. Or three, the board can decide to adopt this ordinance as written, in which case it will take effect in 60 days, assuming that it is not challenged by a petition of 5% of the voters. So that said, I'm going to leave Jonah to it. I look forward to answering any questions you might have.
Thank you. So you may recall that we had two prior public meetings talking about vacant properties where we really sort of outlined the issues behind vacant properties in town. As a result of that, there was the directive from the Select Board for staff to come up with what would an ordinance look like that addressed that issue. And it's probably worth mentioning that some of the impetus behind this effort really came from the citizen survey last year, where vacant properties was identified as the #1 concern that the citizens of town wanted the Select Board to address. 77% identified vacant properties as their primary concern. Also, last year, you may recall, there was an article in the Brattleboro Reformer that also had passed a similar ordinance with a pretty high fee structure, and that was something that was on folks' minds as we started to look into this. So we're going to give you a very brief overview, but simply the goal is to reduce the number of chronically vacant properties in our downtown area. To be clear, we're talking about the downtown district specifically. And we're talking about individual 911 addresses. So it is possible for a building to have more than one 911 address in it. And in the future, this is something that could be expanded to other districts. So this is what that downtown district looks like. To the south, that's the Friendly's property, catty corner to the gas station on South Street. To the west, it goes as far as the Dollar General. To the north, that boundary, that's River Street. And to the east, you have Valentine Street. Currently, there are 24 vacancies within that district, 5 of which have active building permits. And that is important because, as we'll talk about momentarily, that if you have an active building permit, you would not be subject to a vacant building ordinance. The stars indicate those locations of the vacancies, and because of its concentration in our downtown district, the most visible part of our town, I think is one of the reasons why our select board was concerned about this, having so many clustered right around our Four Corners area. So the way it would work is essentially once a year, town staff would essentially do an assessment of what is currently vacant. Kind of like what you just saw on the previous slide. We identified those 24 vacant, 19 without a building permit. Owners would receive a notice after that assessment, and asking them to apply for a vacant property permit by October 31st of that year and pay the required permit fee. And we'll talk more about that permit fee structure in a moment. And of course, the key piece to this is the vacant property permit fees increase each year a property remains vacant. Some of the questions we had received from the public as part of building up to this was, would it be retroactive? And the answer is no. Everyone would start fresh at year 0 under this ordinance. So this is what that permit fee structure looks like. It's pretty aggressive, although the year 1 is just $100. The idea is that you start with a very lenient amount, but that it escalates quickly for subsequent years. As you can see, year 2, 2,000, doubling up to year 5 to 16,000, and then after year 6, adding 5,000 per year. It is worth mentioning that with that August timing for when buildings become vacant, in effect, you could, depending on when your building becomes vacant, you could have up to almost 2 years under that first $100 fee. The other thing to note about this is this permit fee schedule is separate from the ordinance itself, and that is done on purpose. The reasoning being, if the select board needed to tweak something or adjust something, you could do it just by changing this fee schedule at any warned meeting of the select board. If you decided you needed to change any of those numbers or even put them to 0, in effect nullifying the ordinance, you could do that at any warned select board meeting. I mentioned that one exception already. If you have an active building permit, you would be exempt from the vacant property ordinance. So we're not trying to punish people that are working on their buildings or their properties to get them into shape. That's perfectly acceptable. Likewise, when a building has been sold to a new owner, that resets the clock. So the new owner would be starting at year 0 with that property, presuming it's an arm's length transaction, meaning that if you sell it to your business partner or to your wife or your kid, that's not going to be an exception. Actually, it was developers that suggested we should watch out for that. So, and likewise, this third bullet, this is another thing that emerged on the suggestion from these public meetings. The fact is, developer financing can take a very long time. So if the owner can demonstrate that they're actively pursuing financing, they have up to 18 months currently, the way the ordinance is written, to be exempt from vacant buildings while they secure that funding. The ordinance also talks about what owners of vacant properties must do. keep the building clean, secure, good repair, removal, business signs, replace boarded windows within 30 days, install a Knox box by October 31st. By the way, a Knox box is just simply a secure box where you can put a key, so emergency personnel can access your building in the case of an emergency. All 4 of those already exist in current ordinances, but we do reiterate them here as part of this ordinance. This 5th one is new. If the property becomes a public hazard or a nuisance in some way, squatters, illegal activity, the police are constantly coming, fire alarm calls, whatever it might be. In those cases, the town can require the owner to install a monitored alarm system. As part of the ordinance, of course, inspections are allowed. Town officials may inspect the inside and outside of the property. Owners would get a written report of any violations, and they would have 30 days to address any issues. And if an owner doesn't get a permit or fix violations, then there could be a fine. And in fact, again, both of these points already exist in other articles with one difference. The up to $800 per day is the new number, maximum, due to state of Vermont statutes changing. So it used to be a lower amount, but it is now $800 per day. This other one also emerged as a part of that public outreach. So the idea being that some people have said, there's a lot of sticks in this ordinance, what about some carrots? And this is an example of a carrot. And the idea is that those permit fees that you saw, the first, second, and third year fees that have accumulated, which is not insignificant, that's going to be $6,100 over 3 years, would be, if in the 4th year you get a tenant in that property, you can apply, assuming you have no unpaid fines or other amounts owed to the town, you could apply to have those fees credited towards the municipal portion of your taxes. So again, the idea is not, I mean, honestly, as we've been thinking about this, our goal is to never collect a penny under this ordinance. What we really want is to address the problem of chronic vacancies. So there's another way, so understanding market conditions or whatever problems might be out there, if by the 4th year you do manage to get rented, you'll get credited back those first 3 years of fees. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to David. Did you want to talk a little bit again? You want to reiterate those next steps?
Just to reiterate, if the board adopts this evening, this will become law in the town of Bennington within 60 days, subject to petition by 5% of the voters to repeal the ordinance. If the board is not pleased with details of this ordinance, we would be happy to go back and rewrite those sections, but we would ask for direction. Or if the board chooses not to enforce against vacancies in the downtown, that is also an option. All we ask tonight is that we be given proper direction and move forward with our ordinance that we've written to the best of our ability. Thank you.
And I would just note that in addition to having the full ordinance in your packets, it's also available on the town's website in its current form. And with that, I think it makes most sense for us to sit down, unless you have specific questions for us, and let you discuss it amongst yourselves. Does that make sense?
I am actually going to open, Jim, because we may be seeking a motion. I'm going to go to the public first. So, yeah, gentlemen, if you could sit down, but maybe one of you may want to hang close. So, who in the public has comment on the proposal? I'm going to invite these young folks up. Please come to the microphone, identify yourselves.
Hi, my name is Addie, and
If you could pull the microphone closer to you, please. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Addie, and this is Francis, and we are speaking on behalf of members of the Bennington Youth Council. Avery, Soren.
I know this is hard.
Yeah, Avery, Soren, Esme, and Piper. For those of you who don't know, the Bennington Youth Council is an advisory group that gives input on what changes kids and teens in Bennington really want to see, and work with the select board and others to make it a reality. As teens in Bennington, we have had different encounters with the town and the people who make up our community. We don't always feel welcome in some places and find ourselves searching for things to do all of the time. We think that one of the many reasons for this is the empty businesses and properties downtown. It doesn't always feel safe to walk around downtown, especially when vacant properties make the area feel abandoned or like it's not cared for. We are hoping that this ordinance will help create solutions and build community, and we would love to see more public art and more welcoming signage. The Youth Council is excited to see changes being made and fully support the vacant properties ordinance.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yep.
I just need to say I'm sorry. I couldn't hear a thing that you said. I really need people to speak into the microphones. People can hear well at home in the room. If you're hearing impaired, unless you're speaking into the microphone, we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, thanks.
Hi there. Dan, welcome aboard. I think it's my first meeting that I've been to that you've been in charge, and I know we all miss Stu deeply, so thank you for stepping up, and I hope you're enjoying the position so far.
Thank you, Dimitri.
I think that I understand the voters' concern.
If you could identify yourself, please. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Dimitri Garter. I live in North Bennington. I'm an investor in the Putnam Block project. I understand the voters' concern. I think we're focused on the wrong problem. The problem is not the vacant properties, it's why the properties are vacant. And I understand that there are some that are problematic. I get that. But I'm more interested in root cause and what we could do to fix that. So I think there are two real flaws to this. The way it's applied as broadly as it is and the mindset behind it in general. One is on the economic merits of the proposal itself, and the other is on the optics, which I think are even worse than the economic problems. So the issue is if supply and demand for properties was in balance, this would be a different conversation. But supply and demand are not in balance in Vermont. We have a real problem with demand, and the Putnam Block is keenly aware of that. This proposal is not going to create demand. So that's its fundamental economic flaw. So I've got my copy of Abundance. I'm sure everybody's heard of this book. It's been passed around a lot in economic circles. This makes the case for why progressive policies in this country fail economically. And this is written by progressives for progressives. And as far as I'm concerned, this should be required reading for everybody that's in a policy position. Unfortunately, progressives are not reading this book. It's greedy capitalists like me that are reading it. But I don't think that progressives are listening to this message strongly enough. The reason why progressive policies fail economically, according to these authors, is that there is not sufficient investment in supply-side infrastructure. And there are some other nuances to that, but it focuses around supply-side infrastructure and the lack of investment around that. And I think this proposal is a perfect example, and there are other ways to accomplish this, which I'll get to. This proposal not only doesn't invest in supply-side infrastructure, it actively opposes supply-side investment by taxing it. And it does it in a really ironic way, which is it taxes vacancies that are in effect a result of low demand. And the tax itself will contribute to that low demand. So it's ironic and just a bizarre potential outcome of this. That's the economic downside. So why will this contribute to further lack of demand for these types of properties? And that gets to the optics part of the issue. So the Southern Vermont College campus investment is a really good example of how hard it is to get things done in Vermont. And I understand the thinking behind Act 250 and the regulatory requirements for development. And I'm fully in favor of limiting development and growth to smart development and growth. But this project is dormant, and these developers are looking to put $120 million of private investment into Bennington, which is going to be a total game changer. And Vermont has made it about as hard as possible for that project to move forward. And I can't say enough how lucky we are that those investors are even still at the table. Now, I realize that that's not the town of Bennington that's causing that problem, but it's the same basic mindset that the authors of Abundance get to, which is a focus on scarcity instead of a focus on investing in supply-side infrastructure, which is what we really need for economic growth and success. So the Putnam Block project would fall under this ordinance. And this sounds self-serving as an investor in Putnam. My concern is not what it would do to Putnam, what it would do to the other projects that should be getting investments, that the Putnam investors launched that project intentionally in order to spur. And this type of policy sends the message to the outside world that Bennington is not a place that you want to invest. And that's not the message that we want to send. And this is a problem not just in Bennington, this is a problem all over the state of Vermont. So I spend a lot of my time talking to other business owners and CEOs across the state. On the board of the Vermont Business Roundtable. The Roundtable is a group of 100 CEOs from across Vermont, predominantly larger employers. And the narrative, and by the way, this is not an ideological issue, a healthy percentage of the CEOs and business leaders on the Roundtable board and membership more broadly are left of center progressives, but believe in economic growth and are concerned that Vermont's path is going in the opposite direction. We're focused too much on scarcity, not about investments in supply side. The conversation is changing in places like the Roundtable in ways I've never seen in my career in Vermont. Now, we've always had, employers have always used this lever of leaving Vermont as a cudgel. And I've always found it to be really reprehensible. You know, if we don't get the subsidies that we're looking for, if we don't get the tax rebates, we'll go someplace else. And I've always considered that to be really awful. If you want to set up shop in Vermont to do business here, you should be an active participant in improving the economy, not threatening to leave. The conversation that's happening in places like the Roundtable is different now. I don't think that it's rhetoric. The conversation is that Vermont is now so difficult to do business, and it may be at a point of irreversibility because we've got so much of a focus on this scarcity mindset rather than investing in our potential growth. And it's the folks that I'm hearing from is a different audience than the folks I was hearing from 35 years ago when I started my career. These are people whose businesses are named after their family's last name and who live on a road that's named after their last name. Third, fourth generation Vermont businesses that are now saying, I'm not sure I can afford to keep my business in Vermont. And scarcity mindset is the thing that they're pointing to. And I would really encourage, if you haven't taken a look at this framework, it's really, really simple. It makes a lot of economic sense. In closing, I think that this is a problem that needs to be addressed, but I think that there are better ways to address it. If penalizing vacancies is something that the board is really committed to doing, I think narrowing the audience, and I know Bill Colvin sent a memo and has some really, really good ideas for how to do that, to really narrow the audience and not capture property owners that are making good faith efforts to sell their property, because I think that's what sends the message that this is not the place to invest. Frankly, I think the better way to solve this problem is to increase demand for places like Bennington, and that's a complex, nuanced thing. I think the town is doing some really good things to increase demand. And I think we should be focusing on doing more of those things and do them better, and this problem will solve itself. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Bill.
Excuse me, thank you. Good evening, Bill Colvin, Bennington resident. Excuse me if I'm a little off my game tonight. I think I heard Mike Bethel compliment the select board 2 times tonight, so I never thought I would see the day. Let me start by saying that I support the select board's efforts and the town administration's efforts to further revitalize downtown Bennington, keep it an attractive and active place. And by and large, this ordinance fits the bill in most cases. Certainly agree that having a property well-maintained, secure, local property managers within 40 or 50 miles, all of that makes sense. I am concerned that it's missing one important element, and as Dimitri noted, following a presentation back in April by David and Jonah, as requested, I submitted some suggestions to the town via email and through the town's portal. And I feel like the missing element to really make this ordinance both fair and impactful is the lack of a good faith exemption for these properties. And I suggested not a simple good faith exemption, but a pretty rigorous one that would place the entire demand for this proof of this on the property owner. And that could come in one of two ways. That could come by way of a property owner showing a valid listing on MLS through a real estate broker, or via, in the case of a lease, LoopNet or another commercial brokerage service as step one. As step two, they would need to document that the property is listed at a price consistent with the current market. And number three, they would need to show this documentation of all activity over the course of the year and submit it to the town with the outcomes at the end of the year. Now, that seems to place the burden on the property owner as opposed to the town in that particular case. I did suggest in a number of other communities also, such as Portland, Maine, and East Hampton, Mass, have exemptions for the placement of public art in vacant spaces within a downtown. I think that should also stand as a reasonable exemption from these fines to be accrued as we hope the demand for these picks up. So subsequent to submitting those recommendations, I've researched over 3 dozen such ordinances around the country, ranging from small towns of 3,000 in South Carolina to several communities the size of Bennington, up to and including the largest cities in the country, Denver, Chicago, Boston, Los Angeles, New York, and the like. And what they all have in common is this requirement for vacant properties to be listed, secured, and properly maintained. And all, with the exception of all but a handful of the over 36 that I looked at, they all pertain to fully vacant buildings, not commercial spaces within an otherwise occupied, maintained, and secured building. There are a few, I have found 5, that pertain to commercial spaces within an otherwise occupied building, and 3 of those do in fact are in towns relatively close in scale to Bennington. Most of them also include a good faith waiver or exemption. A couple of them do not, but they cap out their fines at the hundreds of dollars range, not the tens of thousands of dollars range. The one best example that I can find for a ordinance similar to Bennington's is in San Francisco. It does not have a waiver for good faith exemptions, and it does pertain to its core business district. And it has fees that could approach the fees that Bennington would charge as you get to the outer ranges of this ordinance. I would note that even after the post-COVID downturn in San Francisco, rents in downtown San Francisco are ranging from $70 to $120 per square foot, triple net, 15 to 20 times what Bennington rents are, yet the fees would be relatively equivalent. I do think this is, I do think with that addition of a good faith exemption, this becomes a fair and reasonable ordinance. I am sensitive to the concerns that it presents another burden for town staff to identify, what's a valid listing, are they really trying, what's the market rate? But I think we're looking at this through an honest assessment. Bad faith actors are going to act in bad faith. And with any of the exemptions listed, they're going to try to work around this fine and fee in whatever way they can. So I'd like to reward the investors that are acting in good faith in the community, that are trying to market properties, are doing it in a manner consistent with the local market, and not penalize those investors and send, I think, an unwanted message and present a higher barrier to entry for prospective investors in the community. And finally, I would note that we're doing this in an environment where mom and pop shops, businesses 10 and under, the very targets of most of these spaces in Bennington, lost 292,200 jobs in 2025 alone. That's the highest number on record since those numbers have been kept over about the last 15 years, and it's more than double the number of jobs that those small companies lost during the COVID downturn. So again, I support the ordinance. I would request that there be some flexibility for good faith actors that place the responsibility on the owner for documenting those exemptions. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience? All right. Then I think what I will do is... Oh, we have someone online? I'm sorry, Jonah. Thank you. Online caller?
Yes, you do have. I'm the only one. Hello, Sam Rashino from Bennington. I know we're talking about downtown. Can we broaden it a little bit outside of downtown? You've got the Tuttle's property, you've got Abishan, you've got Big A Auto Parts. For those of you that are not old school like I am, down at the bottom of Harwood Hill, that's been sitting vacant. It used to be an old auto parts store for many years. The building near the Bennington Cinemas has been vacant. The old Cumberland Farms location has been vacant. Start working on the new Main Street, Bennington Square. What about those two gentlemen that invested $25,000? They were the only ones that invested in that and brought in a big lot, Ocean State job lots and Harbor Freight and Marshalls. We still got one piece of the pie that's still vacant in there. We've got Burger King that's vacant. That's the new Main Street per se that we should be focusing on. Yes, we have to focus on our downtown, but I applaud the 5 businesses that are attuned to the regulations and trying to make a go of their businesses. You said there's, quote, 24 businesses that are vacant. You know, out of the 5, that's not an even number, but I do applaud the ones that are trying to make a go out of it and trying to invest with their property and trying to keep it neat and everything. But I think after focusing on downtown, we need to focus on the outside. I forgot one other property, the old Friendly's location too. That's what makes our Bennington. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Anyone else? All right, then I would ask for a motion for the purposes of discussion.
I'm just sorry, I have a couple of technical questions for staff. Is that appropriate after a motion or before?
I think probably after.
Okay.
I mean, we can ask them regardless.
Whatever works.
So I would ask for a motion to accept so that we can discuss it. And we'll take it from there, if anyone would care to make that motion.
I'm happy to make the motion so that we can discuss it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And Jim, we'll start with you.
Okay, so yeah, I have more for discussion too, but just a couple of things to clarify things in my mind, because as I was thinking about it, I'm thinking about various scenarios for how someone might work around the ordinance. And one is like, what constitutes the space being occupied or actively used? I mean, can somebody put a sign out that they're going to sell farm fresh eggs for 2 hours on Saturday morning, and is that then an occupied use? Is somebody puts a desk and a chair in there and brings their laptop in and calls it their office for a couple hours? I mean, how do you determine what is occupied?
Well, we have a definition of occupied and vacant in the ordinance itself, which is, of course, the starting point. And the part of the way that will shake out, of course, is when people are determined, when locations are determined to be vacant, and the building owner is informed of that, they have the opportunity to say, well, I have my desk in there performing business 2 hours a week, and then that may come down to being a zoning issue, a permitting issue. But I think it's fairly evident which buildings are truly empty. And our definitions, I believe, are written tightly enough that you can't, for example, use a location for storage or that sort of thing and call it occupied. Now, there have been objections to the perceived quality of business that might be attracted, but as the young women in the back here pointed out during their session, any occupancy of a storefront in a downtown area adds to the walkability versus a vacancy. And that's at its core what this hopes to do. I mean, ideally, everyone will rent these at market rate or above and people will get rich, but the core of this is to address the people of Bennington's concerns about there being a lot of vacant spots in the downtown.
Okay, and just one other. And it's probably a question for David. The building off a little bit of something that Bill talked about when he was talking about the fee schedule, I guess I'm a little concerned that it's kind of so open-ended. It doesn't have a cap on the top end, you know, and at some point, just legally looking at it, I wonder if the nexus is there, you know, between the motivation to rent and the amount of the fee. If it, you know, if it's, you know, if you spin it out for, you know, 20 years, which God forbid would ever happen, but you know, you're talking $100,000 fee, and is that really sensible or legally defensible? Would it potentially throw the whole fee schedule or ordinance into doubt if the fee schedule just has no top end cap on it?
I mean, I would be very shocked if we ever got to those amounts. So I don't think that was a prime consideration when drafting this. And of course, one can never say what a judge is going to decide in the moment. But the idea being that this is to make economic decisions easier when it comes to keeping a building free. Also, we've had this reviewed by the town attorney, and that was not an objection that came up at any point, that this is somehow an indefensible fee schedule. And certainly it's something that the select board can modify much more easily than the rest of the ordinance itself. So if the fee schedule itself were to be found unenforceable, that can be fixed much more readily than some portion of the ordinance being found unenforceable. And we do have a severability portion in the ordinance itself in case that should happen. So my shorter answer is I don't think I would worry about this, especially since the lawyer signed off on it.
Who wants to go next? Jackie?
Thank you. Yeah, so I guess I also have a few, I guess, sort of technical questions. There is some language in here about property owners, if they don't live in the local area, needing to identify a local agent. I think that part is really important. Are there any, I don't see any language that agent needs to have power of attorney or you know, in some way be competent or not incapacitated? Is that a concern, or is it just assumed that whoever they elect is going to be?
Well, the agent, as identified in the language of the ordinance, has to be able to represent the owner effectively. So the situations you're describing would prevent that from happening. So I would assume that the owner would be required to put a new agent in place in that instance without us having to define the capability of the agent ahead of time.
Okay. We heard a little bit that there was no sort of exception for good faith efforts, but I see in here language specifically about good faith efforts and up to an 18-month deferral. Am I right that that is that sort of good faith effort, a property owner that shows a plan to have that space become occupied at some point in the future is eligible for that deferral?
Yes, that segment you're referring to was introduced directly after Bill first approached us after that first listening session. And we didn't specifically call out marketing there because marketing itself is such an evidentiarily tough call that it would just threaten to eat everybody's time up. Financing is a much easier thing to demonstrate. Seemed reasonable. Also a long-term plan to keep the building occupied. But our hope here is that, frankly, if you're unable to market a property, you need to keep dropping your marketing rates until it is occupied. Financing, we recognize, is a much higher lift in this economy and in this state. And thus, it makes sense to give people that wiggle room. Also, I would note that the other response to this was 4 years seemed like a reasonable time to get a property on board. If you've been paying into the permitting scheme for 4 years or 3 years, in that fourth year, you can apply to have that used to offset your municipal property taxes. So you essentially get all of that money back that you had to pay in during the time it took to get your building filled.
All right, yeah. Yeah, so you touched a little on making sure that the rent that is set is appropriate for the market. I do want to come back to that because I think that was also a concern that was raised tonight. But on the good faith efforts, who is it that determines whether an owner has met that criteria? Is that permitting department? Is that on town staff?
Yeah, it would have to be town officials, but of course that also would become an evidentiary issue in the event that you had to enforce in the courts.
Okay. Okay, one thing that I look at when I see this is you talk about, and you mentioned allowing the fees to be used to offset property taxes in the event that the property becomes occupied. I think that's a good carve out. Those funds would be held as restricted funds. That makes sense to me. One question I had was whether unrestricted funds could be used to fund facade improvements or other property improvements in the downtown district, such that the fees that are collected from vacant properties would be returned to the downtown to ensure its vitality. Is that something that, if this board wanted to do something like that, would that be part of this ordinance, or would that be a separate thing we vote on?
I think that would probably best be done separately, but I don't know for sure. But I will reiterate what Jonah said, which is we hope to collect not a dime under this. We just want everybody to go out and fill their buildings, and these permitting fees really exist in order for that economic calculus to go home with some people who see the world in dollars and cents.
So, Jackie, just to comment on that, so as far as using fees for facade improvements, et cetera, great idea, but we wouldn't even be looking at that until after the fourth year this is in place, because all of those fees would be essentially in a restricted account, assuming that perhaps within that period of time people will be requesting that tax credit. So yes, we would have lots of time to figure out if someday we actually, 4 years from now, had some funds to expend. Certainly, and David's correct, we could put that in the ordinance, or it could be a separate and distinct policy of the board. It really is up to you folks. If you think this is something you want to proceed with, we can certainly talk about how would those funds would be expended if we were to ever permanently be able to collect any. I will mention that there will be, very likely, some very costly enforcement efforts if we do have to go forward with this. So, some of that money would hopefully be spent in the future to offset those enforcement efforts. Because if we're talking about somebody who's simply in 5, 6, 7 years from now is refusing to make an effort to rent their space, we may be dealing with an actor that perhaps would be very difficult to convince to move forward.
Sure, okay. No, I appreciate that, Dan. A part of the thinking there is just, I think it's really important to stress the idea that this is not about generating revenue for the town, right? This really is about making sure that our downtown has that vitality and those open business spaces. I think anybody from sort of my generation, like, we watched all the malls around the country start dying, right? All the shops inside started closing up, and then eventually the anchor stores couldn't survive in those mostly empty spaces either, right? Like, we've seen it happen in so many places. So I can understand the urge to say that this is maybe attacking the wrong side of the problem, but I really think that this does look to ensure that there is that demand downtown for businesses, for that walkability. And then back to your point about rates being appropriate for the market, I think the other equation that the other maxim that comes into my head is that R is greater than G, right? That investment returns in this country have outpaced economic growth, and you could argue that that's the crux of this problem, not supply and demand.
Go.
Thanks. So we've gotten quite a bit of public feedback since this went on the agenda. And I want to start by saying that I am behind an ordinance that addresses the chronic vacancies that we've been talking about. And I think that we all sort of know those properties in our minds, and they remain unnamed, but they were the sort of the basis for the beginning of this conversation, at least from my understanding. But when we heard tonight from Bill Colvin and from Dimitri Gardner, and we got some feedback, some written feedback from another citizen who happens to be a lender in town, if the message is that we are anti-business, we have, now, I just said if the message is we are anti-business, we have a problem. What I need to understand before I can vote yes to this the way that it is that there is a solution that Bill missed, and that Dimitri missed, and that other interested folks who have stepped forward with comments have missed. In other words, there is a remedy in the existing ordinance for each of the concerns that we heard tonight, or we have a problem. So we have one of two problems. We have a socialization problem, or we have an ordinance that makes us look anti-business friendly. I am very concerned about sort of looking at it that way, and my recommendation, should I be asked for one, might be that we line up the concerns that we've heard against the ordinance to find the solutions for each of the things that we heard from the folks that have spoken. And if we can't find those things, we have to propose them. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Thanks, Ed. Nancy?
I'm 100% having something in place so everybody's property is properly maintained. When we're getting into fees for a space isn't rented, it isn't leased out, I'm concerned especially with a lot of good feedback that business owners and property owners have been giving. I think if we get the places cleaned up, I think that makes a big difference. And I'm also going to challenge a little bit that a rented space is better than an empty space. If we see a lot of offices going into where there always used to be retail, offices are not going to draw the locals downtown. They're not going to get people off the bypass. I think when the resort opens at SVC in about 3.5 years, I think this is the game changer that we've been waiting and looking for 30 years. You're going to draw people here from around the country year-round. It's going to be a high-end resort. They're going to come with money. They're going to want to come into town to shop, to drink, and to eat. I think if we can get the town cleaned up, the properties that haven't been maintained, I think as people hear more and more about the resort, that may bring more people to want to open a shop. And I would question, if we focused on cleaning up the properties, could we do it town-wide if we weren't focused on doing all the fees in the downtown area for the properties that weren't leased? Because I know that was one of the things you talked about. If we're going to be finding or charging fees for properties that aren't leased, we would just do it in the downtown. If we forgot that for now, finding for unleased properties, just getting the properties cleaned up and maintained, would we be able to do that town-wide?
I mean, nothing stops the select board from passing an ordinance to that effect. I mean, some of our ordinances.
I was going to say, I mean, there's already ordinances that address property maintenance that apply throughout town. So if you meet the standards of Article 30, property maintenance ordinance, which applies throughout the town.
But what you have in here is more specific, isn't it?
Correct.
But I would like to see this go town-wide if we could afford to do this. You know, some of the shopping centers that are half empty look awful. They didn't look like that when they were full. Other places around town, and I look at Bennington town-wide, I think about all the businesses. Downtown's important, but anybody paying to run their own business, I don't want to forget about them. So I'd like to try to get the town cleaned up with the properties that haven't been maintained. I think there's a lot of concerns about charging people.
Properties that haven't been maintained or properties that are vacant, Nancy? Because there's two distinct differences.
I guess then I'd look at whether it's rented or whether it's vacant. We should have standards that they all have to meet.
We already do.
We have that.
Huh?
We already do.
Myers do.
Yeah. You're asking us to increase those standards, it sounds like.
But the standards that I'm reading in here.
Most of those exist in other ordinances.
So when I drive around and look at properties that, in the shopping center.
So pick a property and we can certainly address tell us which property you're concerned about.
Well, just the old Kmart Plaza.
Okay. There's no windows broken. There's no dangerous structural issues. There's no
shrubs, grass, maintaining properly, doors falling off.
There are no doors falling off. If they are, they'd be open for trespass, which we do prohibit.
And what about even places, buildings, say in the downtown, not least, the windows aren't cleaned? Could we require the property owners to pay someone to do that?
You could, that certainly would be an appropriate, that is something you could require, and enforcing that might be challenging. The window cleaning police would be another burden that I would prefer not to place on our staff, but.
I just know there are people who have taken it upon themselves to go with buckets of water and sponges and clean windows in the downtown
John
properties.
Shanahan used to do that all the time, yeah. So all those things are things you can do, but you also have to understand that do we have the existing capacity to effectively enforce that, which is why when you folks wanted us to develop an ordinance for vacant properties, we focused on a limited area so that we could start it there, see how much effort it would take. If we wanted to expand it, we could explain, well, this is how much additional staff time it would take, because we would have certainly something to gauge it off of from our initial efforts. But if you did want us to do a more expansive enforcement effort, that would require additional staff, or us not doing other things like enforcing fire and life safety violations, et cetera.
The other, just like to the points that have been made by Jonah and David previously, being very optimistic, not realistic, but very optimistic. If this goes into effect, it gets addressed, and there's not a lot of effort to continue and enforce it, it can be expanded to other zoning districts. That's the other.
And how many property owners are there in the downtown who are not actively? I'm aware of one. How many are there in this area?
Who are not?
Who are not even attempting to rent their buildings or their first floor spaces?
So we have discussed this with some realtors, and there are several in the downtown who have not.
More than 3?
Yes. We have seen actually an increase in effort since this issue has been discussed. It seems like some folks are getting the message and are starting to actually make attempts.
Well, and the impact is enough that we're sitting here tonight debating this.
Yep.
So it's there.
And what happens to a property that's empty? For example, the Depot's lot. The owner got approval to put up a 4-story building 3 or 4 years ago from the DRB. The property's now on the market.
What's the question? I'm sorry.
Okay, well, he got approval to put up the building. He's not doing the building, now he's trying to sell it. Would he be getting the fees every year?
No, this only applies to existing structures, not vacant land.
But aren't there buildings downtown where people are trying to rent, in addition to the Putnam Block, and they aren't getting anybody to lease the property?
I can't speak to every landlord's efforts to rent.
I mean, that's what I'm worried about, somebody who's really trying to rent their space, and they can't, and we're going to fine them for it.
After 4 years, yes.
Can I have maybe something a little more specific along the lines that Nancy was just asking? Because I appreciate what both Bill and Dimitri said, so I just want to address each of those a little bit. You know, the good faith exemption for properties that are being actively marketed is, I think, is something that's worth looking into. It's like, you know, Ed said, if the issues that are raised, maybe we should try to see if there's a solution that we can put into this ordinance. The concern I have is, even though Bill was pretty specific about the types of listings that were appropriate, the other end of it is how responsive the people who are doing the listing are to requests and inquiries. Because I certainly heard a lot of anecdotal stories about properties in the downtown where they're listed through commercial listing agencies, but it's very difficult to get any kind of response. So somehow, if the good faith exemption could be included, that showed, yeah, it was being listed, and I don't know how feasible it is that was really active, and the real estate agents and the property owners were being responsive to requests. I think that would help me get more comfortable with it. And to Dimitri's point, his abundance point, and supply side investment and all that, makes a lot of economic sense. And I think that the problem is that, you know, we're trying to solve the problem with the resources that we have, which are more on the other side of the ledger, you know, so they're more regulatory because we don't have the resources. The thing that I'm thinking is, if we did have some resources, that we could help people rent those spaces and help invest in those spaces, provide that that investment that would help move these things forward, showing that we're business friendly, and also address some of the concerns about that people seem to have about you know, the startup costs, the fit up costs for those empty spaces that are considerable. And if the town had a revenue source that we could earmark some of those funds specifically for grants or low or no interest loans to businesses that would use those for fit up, I think that would make sense. We don't have that right now, so we're trying to solve the problem with the tools that we have, which are unfortunately limited. But you know, potentially we could have some of those resources. So I'm wondering, I guess, like Ed, is if maybe we should. You know, while I do support the concept of the ordinance, kind of like Bill said, it has a lot of good things in there, moves forward, but if we could make it just a little bit fair, and it might be a question of just some language about the exemptions, and it might be a timing issue too, whether this is ripe right now or in the near future. I don't know.
If I could. I want to just jump right after Jim, because he mentioned anecdotal stories. Anecdotal stories have shaped my opinion about this particular topic. Anecdotal stories about this property or that property being vacant for so long because there's no interest on the part of the landlord to actually rent it. Those anecdotal stories are supported by what we see when we walk the downtown with the same signs that have been in the same buildings for how many number of years. So the need for this is real. But I am concerned that we are only addressing, we're building something that could be perceived as anti-business to address those anecdotal stories, if that makes sense.
I guess I would only say that based on the experience of my staff and myself, there is a very real lack of interest on the behalf of many landlords to rent their space. That is not just anecdotal. That's based on efforts that my staff has made to contact these folks, to line them up with tenants. So I would say that is backed up by our personal experience, not just third-hand or second-hand recounting of efforts. I would say that I would ask if we either pass an ordinance that's going to be effective, that we can enforce, or not pass one at all, because I do not want to waste staff time on something that's not going to be effective. And so I have no personal stake in whether this ordinance is passed or not, other than I don't want to waste my time or the staff's time on something just to make us feel good about, oh, we passed an ordinance, so everything's going to be okay. Because as it is, even the ordinance as we propose, the likelihood of it having any real effect on a bad actor is 3 to 4 years down the road. And we just have to decide, do we think this is the way to address this problem, or is it not? And if it's not, we'll keep looking for other opportunities.
Well, to the point that you just raised, Dan, if I could, Mr. Chair. Your staff has investigated some of these properties and determined that the people aren't being responsive. Is there a way to incorporate that into the ordinance, the good faith exemption that Bill was referencing, backed up by some? I don't want it to get too loosey-goosey, but if it's clear that some people are making a good faith effort and are not having, and some people just aren't trying at all and aren't responding to inquiries, those are the people we want to hit.
I just think that's a very difficult task to put on a staff person. Are we going to be the arbiter of whether or not somebody's making a good faith effort? Do we then have to go to court to defend that position? I just think that's not tenable. I mean, if you just want to say, okay, as long as they make some perfunctory report every year for 3 or 4 years, that's fine, and we won't begin to even start the ordinance. But I just think us every year, year after year after year, trying to prove that these folks are actually marketing their properties is just not a fair burden to put on any staff person, frankly. That's just my point about that.
Thanks. I also, I'd also like to push back a little on any notion that might be out there that this is a anti-business effort here. I have a good friend often that will remind me that in many ways I'm also a dirty capitalist. Glad
somebody got the joke.
But I have personally heard from a handful of businesses that are looking for spaces in the downtown and have had some real trouble making contact or finding a space that's within, that fits within a business plan that they think is reasonable for this market, right? And so to suggest that because this targets property owners with vacant spaces, that it's somehow anti-business. I think there's another side to that story, which is businesses that want to actually be operating in our downtown that are unable to find a space to do that. And so from that perspective, this could be seen as very pro-business.
Remember that I used the term perception.
Right,
yes. So I'm very interested in socializing the benefits of this plan so that it doesn't appear to be anti-business. Yeah. And it may already be fine the way it's written. I just think that we need to rethink now after some of the expert advice that we've gotten.
I'm certainly not suggesting that it's perfect as it is. I think some of what I've heard tonight also, we've only had this language for a couple days, right? And so that can sometimes, as they say, the devil is sometimes in the details, right? But yeah, trying to push back on that possible perception.
Nancy?
The business owners and the property owners that officials have been talking to, not here but at other meetings, have they had a chance to read this over yet?
The initial draft.
I mean, this has been circulated in draft form repeatedly. The most recent version dates to June 1st, and I believe it's on the website.
And Jonah, maybe you can just talk to the outreach efforts. I think that there has been a very, very good faith effort on behalf of the staff to reach out to folks. And we even send individual invitations to property.
We did send letters to all those property owners that are in the downtown district that might be affected by this ordinance, inviting them to these public forums. If they were not able to attend any of the public forums, we had a Zoom option they could sign up for to talk to us about it. We've also had these, I think, 5 or 6 different public outreach meetings to various stakeholder groups, and we've been distributing quick fact sheets, sort of a summary of what we're doing, along with QR codes for people to be able to submit in writing any comments they may have. So it was pretty extensive outreach in terms of the people that might be affected, and we had a lot of responses.
I just wanted to make sure this document that we just have, all the business owners, a lot of the business owners have been involved too. I wanted to make sure they had a chance to read over the final document along with the property owners.
Yeah, right from the very first meeting, we always had our most current draft of the ordinance to share with people. And as we've had new additions come out, that's what we've been putting on the website. So the language has been modified as we've gone along, but it hasn't. And every step of the way, that information has been shared with folks at these meetings and on their website.
And I'd say the ordinance has been modified to address concerns and be more lenient than to be stricter. So if someone was looking at the first draft, it would be more perhaps onerous to them than what it currently is now.
Jim, go ahead.
Talk a lot when it's a troubling issue. I kind of wanted to weigh in the notion too about the business-friendly thing. I mean, I think one of the most business-friendly things that we can do as a community is to make sure that we have a vibrant, active downtown, and not doing something to encourage that is very business unfriendly in my mind. So I really think that we have to do something to be business friendly more than we are now. I think this ordinance is going in the right direction. I just I would like to have a little more time to think if there's a way to really craft a fair exemption for the good faith marketing efforts. And I know that'd be really challenging to document. I would say that if we couldn't do that, I would probably prefer then getting a little bit far down the road to maybe get at it through a slightly modified fee schedule where maybe the rates are like, cut in half for the first 4 or 5 years from what's being proposed and then capped, rather than just escalating infinitely into the future. So I think I could support the ordinance with one or the other of those things, and I'm not sure which way I would prefer to go at the moment. So I would actually like to think about it.
Go ahead, Ed.
Did you want to go first? Because you certainly have the right.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
We've heard from you much on this.
I'll talk eventually.
I want to reiterate the point that I made before, and that point was, based on what I've heard tonight and leading up to tonight in person and in writing, I would like the opportunity to line up the objections that I heard against the current plan, the current ordinance, and I'd like the opportunity to find solutions for those folks or write proposed solutions to bring back to this group, and I think that we all ought to do that. So if that includes me rescinding my motion, I will do that, but I will wait for guidance from the board.
what's occurred to me just tonight is that we're talking about the bad faith actors, and I think we all have an idea who they are, and unfortunately some of them own some very prominent property on Main Street. What we do need to point out is we haven't heard a lot from them. And so I'm grateful that Mr. Colvin and Mr. Garter and so forth are actually coming in and trying to be part of this process, because that shows some good faith on your parts too, in my view. You want to rent your properties, I'm sure of that. But by the same token, we do have those bad actors owning really prominent places on Main Street that are some of the first things you see when you come into town. And that's a problem. And so what I think I'm hearing from the rest of the board is that we're close maybe, but not quite there. So how do we want to proceed from here? I'd like to hear a little bit more from the business owners. They're actually trying to be active in ways that would make them feel more comfortable. I think what is definitely evident to me is the way the system has been working up until now is not working, and it's not tenable. So something has to be done. I think this is coming close. But again, we should reiterate that our goal is to not fine anybody.
Right, and we don't want to scare off any business owners that intend to leave their building empty for less than 4 years.
Right, and vacant properties, I would think, would actually scare off some investors too, if there's a bunch of vacant properties around. And it's also not fair to the people that are in downtown trying to market their businesses, and there are vacant stores around them that actually, I think, has some effect on their business as well. So, Jackie?
Thank you. Jim, you mentioned some discomfort with the fees not having a cap on them. I think I share some of that discomfort. I don't know that we're on the same page about the fees themselves being too high. I think if they're too low, then it doesn't matter that there's fees at all, right? So I think there's a balance to strike there, but I'm with you that they shouldn't just increase in perpetuity. I think the other thing that I'd like to see from the downtown business owners, and I think I had brought this up at one point, I don't know when, is more transparency about the spaces that they're trying to rent. I think that's part of where the challenge has come in is we see a sign maybe, we see a listing somewhere, then we hear that somebody called and they didn't get a return, like whatever the situation. One thing that I had hoped at one point is that we could ask the property owners to actually list on the application what they are asking for in rent for that space. I understand there's details there. Maybe not every tenant is going to get the same offer. So maybe that's not a perfect solution, but I think if there were a clear place for folks to go to say, oh, this space is available, it's in this price range, this space is available, it's in this price range, that would inspire some more confidence that good faith marketing is in fact happening. So I don't necessarily know exactly how that can be worked into the ordinance, and I don't want to jump the gun, but I would be willing to make a motion that we revisit this in 2 weeks, if that seems appropriate to other members of the board.
And that would probably mean that I would rescind my motion, and I would be glad to do that.
Let me look at 2 weeks.
I was going to say, we might, 2 weeks, if we're going to spend an hour on this, we may not have enough time to get home before midnight.
The agenda in 2 weeks is pretty crowded.
Well,
I understand that.
I just want to say that I support the idea of deferring on this without getting rid of it. I don't want to vote it down because I think there's too much valuable material in it. But if we do put it off, I'm wondering if we could give what David was asking for, some direction to the staff about what we might want to see, have them like look into, investigate, or try drafting even. I mean, like I said, I would love to see, a good faith exemption that went one step further and had to document that the property owner and the realtor was actually being responsive. Not just listing the property. That's easy to do.
Yeah, right.
Anyone else? All right. So, I don't know that we need to withdraw the motion, and we could table it. It's at your pleasure. It's your motion.
I think when we make a motion and we second it, we expect to act on it, and we're deciding not to tonight. I would like to withdraw my motion in support of a motion I think that Jackie may have raised, or an opportunity to put it on the next available agenda, because to Jim's point, too much work has been done, too much good information has been uncovered, and too much emphasis has been put on this, and we need it to be done. And I think there's no one on this board that disagrees with the fact that we need to change what we're doing now. So I would request in this process that we just get it tonight, put it on the next available agenda.
So Ed, if there's a parliamentarian in the audience, I'm happy to be corrected. But I think actually your motion can stand, and then my motion is subsidiary to it, and the motion would be that we place your motion on the table to retake it up at the next meeting.
Happy to oblige.
And I think it might be helpful to reach out specifically to the vacant land owners.
Which we've already done.
Which you've already done. Yeah. I appreciate that.
I don't know what further effort we should make, so please be specific.
I appreciate that. But I think more, I'm speaking to maybe Bill or Mr. Gardner, in terms of what types of good faith, more specifically, what good faith things that they want to hear. I think we're going to have to reach a situation where nobody's absolutely happy. But that's often the case in government. I think, honestly, we're quite close. And I think with just a little bit of tweaking, we can reach that point where we're not happy and you're not happy, and we can make something work. I see Dan setting his jaw, but
I think we've taken it as far as staff can take it. This is an ordinance that we can recommend to you folks. If you want us to make changes, whether it's that you form a committee or whatever, we need to have clear direction on that, because we believe that this is an appropriate ordinance given our staffing levels, given the amount of time that we have to propose it, to commit to it, and given our understanding of what would be effective. So we are happy to make changes. We're happy to let it drop because, like you said, we've spent a lot of time on this, and if we're going to continue to spend time in it not go anywhere, that's not productive either. So I would simply ask that you give us clear direction. We will do whatever you ask us to do, whether it's withdraw it, not continue efforts, make substantial changes, et cetera. But I think we're at the point now where we need you to tell us, what do you want us to do?
Tom, if I could make a suggestion on that note.
Go ahead.
I think that Dan just said it, and that is maybe we do need to appoint a subcommittee that will work quickly between now and 2 or 4 weeks from now when this fits on the agenda again. I wouldn't mind being on that committee. I'm going to reach out to folks anyway if we have a pending vote in 4 weeks. And I'm going to ask people to show me exemptions in their situation or in their example situation, or lack of exemptions, and why they feel that there should be one. I think that's information worth gathering, and maybe we're a little bit late to the game, but I'd rather do it right than do it fast.
Yep, no, I appreciate that.
Ed, if the chair pleases, I'd be happy to work with you on that. It occurs to me that this kind of originally came out of the Economic Development Committee a little bit, so there's some maybe background there that would be helpful, so if it pleases the chair.
Does anyone have an objection to forming a subcommittee to work on this? Okay, do we have a third person that would like to sit on the subcommittee? Seeing no one raise their hand, I would like to. So, but I do always try to include as many people as possible. Unfortunately, Clark and Sarah aren't here this evening. So why, with the board's consent, I don't think we need to vote on it per se, but I think we can get together and set up a time to meet and set up some folks to talk to and then come back and report to the board.
We do need to vote on tabling the motion.
Thank you.
And wait a second, yeah.
There was no second.
Second.
All in favor of tabling the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I think we're unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That will be
and please know, we do appreciate your work, and this is just, it's too important to not get right.
No, I want to thank the board because I do think this is an effective way forward. Us guessing what might be acceptable to you is not going to move the ball forward for us. Yeah.
Can I just say that to Bill and Dimitri, stay with us. If your phone rings from one of us, take the call.
Yeah, thank you for coming tonight. Yeah.
And thank you for coming.
All right.
Water sewer rates for fiscal year 27. Mr. Monks.
Yes, so this will be essentially a repeat from our budget meeting when we projected the impact on the water and sewer rates. There is no change from what we presented with the budget. We are proposing a 4.9% combined increase in both the water and sewer rates. So just to be clear, that's a 5.8% increase in the water rates and a 4% increase in the sewer rates. So if you combine that flat rate, it is a 4.9% increase. It's a total increase for a typical owner over an annual period of $63.98. That converts roughly to $16 quarterly and 17.5 cents daily. And again, this was discussed at the budget meeting when we looked at the water and sewer budgets, and this is the exact same calculation and the exact same rate that we discussed at that budget meeting. I have no changes to propose or to discuss this evening regarding that. This projection that our finance director prepared.
Thank you, Dan. Is there anyone in the public that would wish to speak to the water and sewer rates? All right, seeing none, could I please hear a motion to...
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
We just got a hand up at me.
I gave him a second, too. Yes, online? Sam, I'm assuming?
Yes. I've asked it on you.
Yeah, I'm here, Sam Rustino, Bennington.
Okay, we can hear you.
Yeah, on the water and sewer, I know they're going to go up year after year after year after year. Just want to state that there are people in this town that are on fixed incomes, and it's getting harder and harder. And I know you have a job to do with, supplies and cost of insurance and all that comes into play, but the concrete is starting to crack. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Anyone else? Then could I please hear a motion to accept the water and sewer rates as proposed?
So moved.
And second.
Any further discussion from the board? Nancy.
I just want to stress to Bennington residents, especially if you pay a water and sewer bill. I don't think many people saw the meeting on May 18th. We talked about the fact we are looking at a $20 to $40 million 10-year capital plan.
Well, we didn't actually get to that capital plan, but we talked about developing one, yes.
$20 to $40 million to address the remaining issues with our water and sewer system. Obviously, there'll be grant money involved, but I'm very concerned about what the cost will end up being to water and sewer users. We also talked about the fact that our wastewater treatment plant will reach capacity in less than 18 years. That will be more costs. But I cannot urge people enough, please go to our webpage. You can watch the CAT TV video so you can start to understand all the issues that we're going to be looking at. But again, it's the cost that I'm very concerned about. In the end, how is that going to impact the water and sewer users? Water and sewer is a critical need, and I think we need to start focusing more on the real needs and maybe back off on some of the wants.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? And we are unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Manager's report.
All right, a couple of things tonight. Let's see, 3 action items this evening. The first one, you folks will have seen the email from Clark Adams. He has requested that this board approve the temporary relocation of the 911 or 9/11 artifact located at Bennington County Courthouse. That's that iron piece from the Twin Towers that's on display. It's actually attached to a marble base. He's asked for the select board to approve the temporary relocation of the artifact, not the base. The artifact can be removed with special tools, and so that it can be relocated for a limited period of time to the grounds of the Veterans Home as part of a commemorative ceremony to be conducted on September 11th of 2026. I'm assured by Mr. Adams and by the Vermont Veterans Home that they'll take good care of the artifact while it's in their care, and I've also discussed this with the town's Buildings and Grounds Department, and they have confirmed that that relocation, removal from the base and relocation to the Veterans Home is possible. So it's really up to the board whether they feel that it's appropriate to temporarily relocate this important artifact for that ceremony to be held on September 11th.
This being the 25th anniversary?
Yes, thus the request.
We have someone online?
Yes.
Okay, I'll take from the public first, Nancy, since we're going to hear a motion. Go ahead.
Yes, Sam Racino, Bennington. When this was posted in the packet, there was very little detail to who, what, why, when, and how. When they described the artifact, they really didn't describe the steel. I hypothesized that it was the steel. I thought it was the whole structure, the base and everything. Now I hear from town manager Dan Monks that it's just going to be the steel itself. Why wasn't that put properly in the packet? I find also, and many other residents in Bennington, as you know, going on 25 years, that's Memorial Park. That's hollow ground. That's a sacred ground. To be moved temporarily and then back, you're messing with the spirits. There was no problem shutting down South Street and holding that commemorative for first responders and how it was and how it grew each year and how it grew with the 15 years and how it grew with ringing of the bell. Everything's in place right there. And now we want to sit there and move this to the Veterans Home. Mr. Clark is not there. There needs to be a little bit more information on what his intent is, what a part of it has to be. That's hallowed ground, folks. I'm a true Vermonter. You don't mess with grave sites.
Thank you, Sam.
Is that a grave site?
No, it's not a grave site. So, anyone else in the audience? All right, could I please hear a motion so the board can discuss?
I'd like to make a motion that we honor the request as it was made.
And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Jim. Nancy?
I've thought a lot about this since I read the request. I've never viewed that as a 9/11 artifact. I agree with Sam. I've always viewed that as a 9/11 memorial. I can't get behind the idea of, hey, let's pick it up, take it to the vet's home, we're going to bring it back. I was hoping Clark would be here to ask him, is there anything they're going to do at the vet's home that we couldn't do on South Street in front of the courthouse and the town office if we closed off South Street for as long as it needed to be closed off. I mean, I would love to see 500 people show up there, but I can't see moving that memorial.
I think part of the concern was so that the veterans could more easily attend, and it's a much bigger site. So I know
sorry,
that
what
was.
was that?
I know part of the request was because so the veterans could be involved, many of whom can't travel well. Excuse me, and that the Vets Home grounds can accommodate a lot more people. So, and I do hear you.
But I thought about that too.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for something that we can get down there so the veterans can get involved, but I do also realize that the Bennington Armory has been behind the town office 100 years. We've had many local people and people from our area who've served, who've trained there many times over 100 years. When they're shipping out to go overseas, they start off from the Armory to go. So there's that other way you could look at it too. But again, it is about the people, and it was about the first responders and also veterans too.
I just want to comment that I'm in favor of moving this so that the veterans can enjoy that fully without the discomfort of having them have to come downtown.
Anyone else?
Yeah, thank you.
Jackie.
Yeah, I guess I also didn't understand that the base wasn't moving with it, which, whatever.
The base would be difficult to move.
Sure. But where will it be? I mean, are they just going to have their own base then? Do you know?
I haven't discussed it at length with Clark. I have the same email that you folks have, and I know that Jonah, he's not here now, but he attended a meeting with Clark, with the Veterans Home and the Planning Committee, and that this was the request that came. Jonah was very clear that staff can't approve it. It has to be a select board action. So that's why we're here today.
And there's a little bit of staff time involved, but I imagine the cost to the town is pretty minimal.
Very minimal,
over.
yes.
Yeah.
Most of it, I would assume most of the effort would be done by the Veterans Home staff and the Planning Committee. We essentially need to use the special tools to remove the artifact from the base.
If I could take your eye to that line in the email, properly and safely move, display, and return. Those were important factors in my thinking.
And just to be clear, it's just going for this event and will be returned immediately after the
perhaps
event.
maybe a few days before and maybe a few days after, but no, not for, it's not like
as soon as possible.
It's not visiting for the
as
quarter
little
or
disruption to the site as possible.
And we say artifact, but this is a small piece of a steel I-beam. It's not very likely to be damaged or broken.
Or stolen.
Right.
I think I do not think there's much likely for it to be damaged. The only likelihood is if it's mishandled and, for some reason misplaced. Obviously, that they're going to be very careful with that, so I don't think that's likely. But they've committed to, obviously the folks that are planning this memorial revere it and will do everything they can to make sure it's safe.
And that's exactly why I had the similar questions to how they're going to display it, et cetera. But I actually, knowing Clark and knowing the people that are on this committee, I have every faith that they're going to treat it respectfully. So that sets my mind at ease somewhat. So, anything else?
Somebody.
Can I ask a question? Sorry. Kate Goss, Bennington. Because it sets a precedent, this is the first time this has ever happened, right? Are you at all concerned about a slippery slope that other groups might ask? Just curious about the future of the artifact being moved. Or do you perceive that this is only going to be around September 11 and not for any other purpose? I'm just curious about that because it is a precedent.
I think they would be hard pressed to make an argument that they should move it if it wasn't 9/11 related. And really, the only reason I'm considering it now is because it is the 25th, which is
the 25th anniversary.
Thank you.
it's a
Yeah, your
remarkable
point is
thing.
well taken, though, and if a demand ends up showing up here every September 11th, we're going to say, oh, look at what we did.
Right.
Now we need a protocol.
And we may very well, we most likely will say no. But I think it being the 25th anniversary, I think that is important to remember that day. I certainly remember where I was that day, and I'm sure all of you do too. So, anything else? Go ahead.
When a citizen acquired that, and I don't know how it came about, but that's where the decision was it would go. And I think a lot of people see it more as, well, just a piece of steel. And I think it could have been put any place. It wasn't put at the vet's home. It was put in front of the courthouse in the downtown, so.
Yeah, I hear you. I think it being a momentous anniversary kind of makes the argument easier for me. But it certainly is going to go back to its proper place and be properly secured again. And I think that the town will not suffer from seeing it transferred for a ceremony. It's the only thing we have in town that's 9/11 related.
The benefit at the vet's home is going to far outweigh any discomfort, in my opinion, for the short time that it will not be in its permanent location.
And I'm confident that this is nothing disrespectful to the folks that lost their lives at 9/11. So seeing nothing else, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nope.
And so I think that's 4 to 1. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll inform Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark Adams.
Hates when you call him Mr. Clark.
Yes.
I would too.
I was speaking to Todd Clark today, so I had Todd Clark on my mind, but so I got too many Clarks today. The next one's really a board action for you folks. I don't know how much you've discussed it internally, but we do have a need at some point in the next several weeks at least to make appointments to boards and commissions. You'll have the board have to consider how many, well, if you're going to have any interviews, who you're going to interview and when, and don't necessarily need to make a decision tonight, but if you could give us some direction, we'd need at least, I would say at least 10 days to give folks a chance, if you are going to interview them, to set up those times. It's because it takes a little while for us to get folks, by email or phone and get them lined up. So if you do have an idea of whom you'd like us to contact and when you'd like to hold those interviews, we could do that this evening, or you could determine amongst yourselves and let me know through Tom. But I would just want to make sure that we don't lose track of that effort. I will note that we have applicants for virtually every position except for 2 positions on the Energy Committee. So if anybody's interested in the Energy Committee, we still have open positions. And it's also worth noting that only CPARB and the Planning Commission have competitive applications. In other words, there are more applications than there are openings. So
is this packet in front of us?
Yes, that is complete.
Everything you know.
That's everything we know today. Okay. Obviously, we're past the deadline. We did receive some late ones, but they were for positions that were not applied for previously. So,
and you included them.
And they are included.
Thank you.
So that's up to date as of right now.
So we have been attempting to hash this out online, and one thing I will say is that we are incredibly busy people. And that, every date that we've suggested so far, somebody has had a conflict. So I was actually happy to see you adding this to your manager's report so that we could have the opportunity to just talk it out. I'm kind of disappointed that Clark and Sarah aren't here for that.
Of course, 2 people on here.
But at least we have a quorum. And I think that might be where we end up with, because every date that we could possibly look at, somebody had something going on. Now you say 10 days. I was hoping 7 might be enough.
But I think we'd be fine. There may be, most of the time we find that we can get a hold of people in 2 or 3 days, but sometimes, if they have plans. But yeah, 7 days is fine.
Is anyone available?
You give us.
Is anyone other than Jim, who already told me, not available in a week?
Not available when?
On the next Monday?
This coming Monday, which would be the 15th Monday. That's good.
Just pick a day. I mean, normally in June, we're announcing who's being appointed, and we haven't started interviews.
But we've gone past this before.
Yeah,
historically.
Actually, Nancy's correct. Ideally, you're making them in June, maybe even May, but there have been times, many times over the past several years, where it's July and even into August. So people serve until they're replaced, and so
Just pick a day and a time and go with it.
Well, I have to pick a day and a time when we can have at least 4 of us there.
So June 15th is what Tom suggested.
That's what I'm suggesting, but I'm open to other suggestions.
I'm good with that date.
I can do
Are we going to do them all one day?
Well, that's the next question. Because we do only have 2 committees with contested, for lack of a better word, applicants.
When I looked through the packet, it looked like one of the applicants had expressed an interest in either the Planning Commission or the Development Review Board, but that wasn't reflected in the number of applications received for the Development Review Board. So depending on how you count, Brian Sheets.
So I believe that since Brian is in Old Bennington, he's not eligible for the DRB, but he could be conceivably, although it's not been this board's practice, he could be conceivably eligible for the Planning Commission, because the Planning Commission does not require residency.
Oh, okay, that's helpful context, thank you.
Does it matter that he's the chair of the Old Bennington Planning Commission?
It may matter to you folks, but that's okay. We have not traditionally appointed people that do not live in the jurisdiction in which the planning regulations are enforced. He is a resident of Bennington, so it's a little bit, even if we limit it to Bennington residents, he would be eligible. So it's really up to you folks. There's not a bright line rule on the Planning Commission.
There might be synergies. So.
Well, no, that's something I have an issue with. Prior to the Select Board restarting the Energy Committee during COVID, everybody appointed to our boards and committees, I believe, had to be Bennington residents. And they said with the Energy Committee, they didn't have to. And then with the CPARB, they said they didn't have to. We're dealing with Bennington. And I have a concern when people who don't live in Bennington want to get on our boards and committees. Why aren't they getting on boards and committees in their own towns? And if it's going to impact the cost of living in Bennington, they aren't going to share the cost. They get their tax bill and fund the budget in the town they live in. So I'm really concerned people who don't live in Bennington wanting to be on our town boards and committees.
The person that we're talking to is a resident of Bennington, taxpayer of Bennington.
And I think probably not appropriate to discuss whether or not that person should be appointed in open session.
That's correct, thank you. I'm a little uncomfortable that his name is mentioned.
Somebody who didn't live in Bennington. The other issue that I've been waiting on clarification for is a year. The Planning Commission is a 5-person board. I pointed out last year, I counted 7 names right below where it said it's a 5-person board. And I went back, and it was 3 years ago in June, somehow it went from 5 to 7.
Yep.
I looked at the 6 months previous select board meetings. I couldn't find where the board discussed and voted to increase it from 5 to 7. So I believe it is the select board that decides if boards and committees get larger or smaller.
That is correct, and that's what the board decided, and that's why there's 7 members. You could certainly reduce it back to 5 if that's what you...
Okay, then please send me the minutes from the meetings.
Okay, so in terms, to get back to the relevant...
No, I need this clarified. I brought it up a year ago. And I said,
So Nancy, if you can't find the minutes, I don't know how we could.
I'm sorry, what?
If you can't find the minutes, I don't know how we could. They're all
No,
online.
I looked through the minutes, Dan.
Okay.
And I did bring it up at the meeting.
So does anybody here have a concern about that you would want? Does the majority of the board want that?
If the select board decides to make the board, the board should have discussed and voted. If the board didn't do that, that's my concern. How did it go from 5 to 7?
Nancy, the fact is it is 7. If you want to change it, you could first certainly make that motion, and if it carried, be reduced back to 5.
Dan, my concern is, did the select board discuss and vote to increase it to 7?
Obviously, they did because they appointed 7 people.
Well, the board gets the people to go through, and they're told how many openings there are. Now, I've never thought to say, okay, let me look at the town report and see whose terms are up.
The town report does show whose terms are up.
Sorry?
The town report does include the membership as well as their terms. Yep.
But it's town staff that tells us how many openings there are.
When you went from 5 to 7, there were a plethora of applicants. The board decided at that point to appoint 2 additional members to the Planning Commission. I can't point to, I don't recall, I wasn't actually part of those discussions. The board, during their deliberations to appoint members, made that determination.
I don't think, the board can't vote.
It was probably actually on or about the time they appointed the 7
Board can't
people.
vote in executive session, correct?
No, but when they came
Correct,
out
but
to
when
appoint
they
them.
appointed
I'm
them.
sorry, point of order, Mr. Chair. What is the topic right now?
There's 7 members on the Planning Commission. Let's move on.
It's, the main point here that I want to make is the board comfortable only interviewing for the positions that, the committees that have contested positions?
Well,
Do you see anyone?
Well, I'm not potentially interviewing. I don't have a problem proceeding that way as long as, there's a vote on all of the candidates.
Which, of course, that has to be done.
Yep.
Ed, do you have any objection to only interviewing for positions, boards or committees that have contested positions?
I don't object.
Okay.
So that would be 9 applicants that you folks would have to interview if you did follow through.
Sure, I want to talk to people. I mean, if they've never served on board or committee, nobody's opposed, so you're just going to put them on the board to fill the body?
Okay, how many of the applicants, Dan, do we have that are applying that have not served? Do you know off the top of your head?
Let's see. I mean, well, let's go through. So I'll try to remember off the top of my head, and I can look too. So BCRC, the person applying, I'm sure he wouldn't mind me telling you, is David Conwell. I think you know David, but if you felt like you had to interview him, I'm sure David would oblige. Yes, so Housing Authority, that's Sally Adams. She's reapplying. The listers, both of those listers have been on the listers probably for 10 years. HPC, I think there is 1 applicant who is not served before, 1 person. Planning Commission, you're going to look at anyways. The Energy Committee, we've only received 1 application. That person serves on the Energy Committee currently. And the DRB, I believe we have 1 new person, 1 person who currently serves and 1 who served before but is reapplying. And then CPARB, you're going to be interviewing anyway. So
I have a suggestion. Does it make sense for us to open up a half hour of phone time to reach out, or have those folks call in while we're together doing these interviews, but keep them to 5 minutes each over the phone so we don't have to actually bring them in? These people that are incumbents.
I don't disagree with Nancy that we should talk to people that haven't served.
I would like the opportunity to talk to incumbents as well.
Right, okay. We extend that invitation, Dan? Can we make that work in the conference room?
So you're, just to be clear, because I didn't hear, you want to interview every single person that's applying?
I would absolutely not want to do
It's
that.
an extended period of time.
I would
for
prefer
people
not
that,
to.
many of whom have served for over a decade.
Yeah.
So that's we'll be there, we'll make the conference
I would
available.
say interview all the ones for the contested positions, the so-called contested positions. And remember that you also received written application materials, from people that you can read. And, if you feel that you need to follow up or ask questions because you don't have enough information, you can. I just think that, you're probably spending a lot of time on some of these things that really aren't necessary, interviewing the incumbent candidates and things.
I don't disagree with you. I feel uncomfortable extending to people that somebody on this, may not have been, I'm sorry, this board may not have any members from when these people were originally appointed. And so each year that goes by that we don't talk to them is another year of distance between us and them. And for time's sake, I feel like we're always under a time crunch. For time's sake, I think that we should take the most efficient way, and that is to interview only new contenders for contested races. But I'd like it on record, and it is because we're speaking to it, I'd like it on record that I think this plan needs to be rethought somehow.
One thing I've been struggling with is that we have to make them at the time of year when everyone on this board and everyone else in the world is busy.
Yeah.
And you know, graduations are happening, people are having their vacations, there's holidays, there's family visits. It's always challenging this particular time of year, so that may be something we need to look at. But
Could I suggest you start with the CPARB and Planning Commission, and then you can review the applications in executive session? If you want to have further interviews with people, we could certainly schedule that for a future meeting.
That makes sense.
Because I think once you read the applications of the folks that are new, you may not be concerned about appointing them.
any objection to that?
No.
Make it so.
Okay, so June 15th, what time do you want to start?
Jackie, you work out of town.
Yeah, 5 o'clock is my
7 a.m.
earliest.
5 a.m.
So we'll start at 5 p.m. and hope to wrap up by 7-ish or so, and we'll invite all the folks. Do you want to do 15 minutes like you typically do?
Yeah.
15-minute interviews starting at 5 p.m. on June 15th for
couldn't start
CPARB and the
before
Planning
5?
Commission.
Jackie has to get here from work.
And we're sticking with only one person can be.
That's one other thing I wanted to bring up. My suggestion would be to ask the candidate why they think they're qualified, and then get each board member a follow-up question of their choice. I personally don't feel that I got a lot out of the questions necessarily. So I think we could better decide if we go that route, because it gives us some flexibility with the candidate. I mean, I've been on job interviews, and I'm confident that some of the questions they asked me were related to my answers. And I think by forcing us to stick to one rigid set of questions, we lose that flexibility.
You can't follow the conversation. I like what you just said. One same opener for everybody, one follow-up from each interviewer related to the response.
Right.
That we got.
I think that makes sense.
The only thing I would offer is that there's potentially some questions that would be inappropriate, possibly illegal to ask in that context, and so we should be mindful of that.
Nothing about age. Nothing about race.
Hasn't everybody done interviews at this board before?
Yep.
Okay, then.
I think we all have a pretty good idea of
You know,
what should be and shouldn't be
In the
asked.
same laws for 50-plus years.
But
again,
well noted.
one citizen cannot be appointed to more than one board or committee, correct?
That's been the practice recently.
And I think it's good to stick with that.
And I think that's reflected in these applications. I don't think, there is one person who's applied for one or the other, but not both. So I think
I thought we had one that applied that is already on a different board or committee.
I'd have to look at that. I don't recall that. But
Well, I know it's something the board, I
but we
think
can
it's,
certainly look at that when you guys are making your decisions. If there's somebody who is already serving on a board, you can certainly say, hey, pick one.
So we're firmed up for 5 o'clock on the 15th.
5 o'clock, June 15th, at the town office conference room. Does that work for everybody?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we will do that. It'll be most likely the big conference room that we typically use, but even if that one's full, we have a backup, so we'll be fine. Because I haven't checked on availability, but we have two, so we'll be good. So that, I think I have everything I need for that. Like I said, if after that meeting you folks want to continue with additional interviews, we can make those happen quickly.
Okay.
So.
well, maybe you may not be able to get everybody for next Monday, though.
Well, we're going to try like heck, and you're right. Maybe we might have to have a follow-up for those folks.
But somebody
that
may
couldn't
have a
make it.
commitment. I'd feel bad and say, well, you've got a commitment, we can't do it.
And please do let them know that a Zoom option is available for them if they need to do that.
Yes, Zoom option, yes, that's helpful. Thank you. I would have probably forgotten that. Okay. That one's good. What's that?
Sometimes it's better just to throw it out there when we're all together.
Absolutely. I thought I had the time nailed for this meeting, but I'm a little off, so I apologize. It's taking a little bit longer than we had hoped, but we still might finish it close. The next one, this one's coming straight from me. I've served with this gentleman for 28 years, and he served this town for 45. This is a request to honor Ron Alderman, who was appointed to the Zoning Board of Adjustment in 1981 and continued on the Development Review Board when that zoning board morphed into the Development Review Board. He's just resigned in May. And again, I would appreciate if you folks found it appropriate to honor him by authorizing the chair to sign a proclamation, and it simply reads, "The town of Bennington proudly recognizes and thanks Ron Alderman for his exceptional dedication to our community through more than 4 decades of volunteer service on the Zoning Board and Development Review Board." And talking about boards and commissions tonight, you couldn't think of a person that that better represents the service that these volunteers give to our community. So that's my request. That's as a request that I'm making to the board.
Could I have a motion to that effect, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Go ahead, Nancy.
I was watching the ZBA meetings before Dan was hired.
Yes.
Learned a lot about zoning, and Ron has certainly been an important part of, well, I still call it the ZBA, now it's the DRB. Very important part of that for 45 years.
He was a rock. He knew the ordinances inside and out, and he's never strayed from doing his job. So just an excellent volunteer, and we'll miss him.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Any
you very
opposed?
much. I do
There we go.
appreciate that. I just have some quick informational stuff for you guys so we can wrap up. There was a request to give an update, and it's a perfectly, I think, timely one, on the so-called South End Waterline Extension Project, and that's essentially down Monument Avenue and into the South Shire neighborhood. Larry and MSK provided me with a brief update on the project, and I can report that design and environmental permitting are complete for that project. The Agency of Natural Resources drinking water permit application has been submitted and deemed complete and is being processed by A&R staff, and we expect that any day. Fingers crossed, but it's not holding us up at this time. All easements for the projects have been acquired and signed. That was a little bit challenging, but thanks to some hard work with our attorney and MSK, we were able to get through that, and our DPW folks. We are waiting final approval from A&R's Water Investment Division of the construction documents. Those are the final design and specs, as well as the form construction contract. And once we do receive that approval, which we are trying to expedite, the project will be ready to go out to bid. An important part of this effort is the town has obtained $5 million in grant funds for this project. We do not believe that is sufficient to do the entire project, although we've been pleasantly surprised in the past. So the project is going to be bid out with a base bid with alternates so that the project can be broken up into phases if needed. So our hope is that we can get the water line down Monument Avenue and cover all of the South Shire neighborhood. Right now, it's basically broken up into half of the South Shire neighborhood in the base bid, and then the second alternate, an alternate to take the rest of South Shire. But again, we do believe and are hopeful that we can do all of the South Shire neighborhood. If you recall, this project also includes some effort to build water line extensions on Hickory Hill. That we know we don't have enough money to do that, and at least with what the funds we have, but we will be continuing to pursue efforts to extend that water line, and there are some options that we're pursuing that may make it feasible in the near future. But I don't want to lead folks astray. This first phase will be down Monument Avenue into the South Shire neighborhood.
Is this the project, I think it was early last year, we may end up costing our citizens an extra $1 million? We're running the line, we didn't know about the contamination when they approved the bond for South Shire. Or for South Street?
So we're getting into the weeds, and I'd be happy to talk about that. And it's a little bit hard to explain. But so yes, we did pass a bond
for South Street,
2022 or 2023, to increase to do improvements to increase pressure on Margaret Lane in that portion of town. Fortuitously, this South End project that will bring water to the Southshire, if we loop some of those lines, a couple of those dead end lines that would have been in Southshire with existing water lines, we think that will also help to improve the water pressure. So we are hopeful that we don't have to do the entire project that we planned to increase, the entire initial project that we planned to increase pressure on Margaret Lane, et cetera, and instead we can rely on the looping of lines in the Southshire neighborhood. I know that's a lot to take in, but basically we have Southshire Project 1, we have South End Project 1, South End Project 2. We can make them overlap a little to accomplish the goals so that we don't have to spend as much on the Project 1 as we anticipated.
Are they still going up in the Margaret Lane area?
Yes.
Okay. But I thought nobody knew about the contamination.
No, not at that time.
And I thought running the line down there was what was going to cause us. Maybe we'd have to pay $1 million because we didn't have...
Actually, we expect that we would save possibly up to $1 million on that initial project that we could then apply to that looping effort, which would give us, $6 million to throw at this project as the second project as opposed to 5, because it's accomplishing the same, part of this project would be accomplishing the same goal as the initial project.
So we have a different project that we may be looking at having to pay $1 million extra on. I thought this was the one.
So don't have a different project. There's two projects. There's the water pressure project and there's a contamination project.
Yes.
South End 1 and South End 2. Fortuitously, South End 2 could make it so we have to do less work on the South End 1 project, therefore saving us some money that we could use to do the looping that would accomplish the same goal as the extra $1 million of water line on the first project.
But if the bond got approved for the Margaret Lane area,
no,
we can't...
We've talked to council and bond council, and because the purpose of the bond was to improve pressure in that area, as long as the effort that we do on the Southshire project through that looping also accomplishes that goal, and in fact will enhance it and make it even better, then we believe, we haven't gotten a final opinion yet, that would meet the requirements of the bond vote.
But there was nothing about Monument Avenue mentioned for that Margaret Lane bond.
No, because we didn't know that we would be doing that looping, possibility of doing that looping that would increase the pressure. So we actually have an opportunity to increase the pressure more if we do this looping on the Southshire project than if we do the initial section of piping that we thought.
But we got the tower in SVC.
Yes.
And then we said we needed the pressure. We need to do the pressure up on Margaret Lane to put the lines up there. And now we're finding out if we put them up on Monument Avenue, that's going to help Margaret Lane.
Not on Monument Avenue. If we loop Monument Avenue through Southshire, that will give additional pressure. Yep.
But initially,
it requires a loop.
Didn't we talk about going there because of the contaminated wells?
That was the initial idea, yes.
Okay, that's where I thought the $1 million came from, because
we got $5 million for that project.
I don't remember the cost, but I thought we might not have all the funding, but we had to get the water to the contaminated wells. That's why it might have cost us another $1 million.
Nancy, I can't go back in time and see what that was.
Mr. Chair, we've had a presentation on this and had these issues explained to us.
And we'll have, if we do have to expend more.
Needs to have that revisited. I suggest she take the time to go into the town office to hear about it.
If I heard the cost of $1 million to our water and sewer users, I need to follow up, Jim.
Follow up in the town office, because we've had the presentation at this meeting.
And if we do have to expend additional funds, that will come before us, and that would be the appropriate.
And there's no proposal before you to expend additional ratepayer or taxpayer funds. We are simply using funds that were already either approved and borrowed and or granted to us. None of this is new funding. They're using the same funding in a more efficient manner.
So for clarity, we didn't just add $1 million to anything?
No.
In fact, we're saving $1 million.
Thank you.
We're saving $1 million.
I just wanted to, it says it here at the end, additional funding sources continue to be pursued, so.
Yes, that additional funding source is the additional bond money that I just discussed. I knew that it would be a very complicated discussion, so, but that's what that is. And there may be next year some additional emerging contaminant funds, which are grant funds, 100% forgivable loans that we absolutely will continue to pursue so we can finish out and connect to all the contaminated wells that have been identified. But I just want to be clear that we don't have enough money right now to do all the wells, especially the ones up in the Hickory Hill neighborhood. Although we are continuing to pursue that, we may even use our own crews if necessary, if we can find enough funding to cover our costs. So all of that's to be determined, also to be discussed with you folks. None of those decisions will be made without your approval.
All right.
Can I ask a quick question or two?
That's up to the chair.
If it could be quick, please.
I know you guys are. Dan, I'm Tom Kelly, and I actually live in the South Shire neighborhood, and I reached out to Jim to ask for this update, and I really appreciate that. Could you just let us know what that breakout within South Shire may or may not be, depending on what that funding is that you just discussed?
Yes.
Okay.
So I can show you a map, but it's that first, it's basically, we'll cut it right in half. You know, you have when you go into south.
North side, south side.
Yeah, so those that go north and south to that line would be done first, and then the second would be beyond that.
Okay, so it's north side first, south side second?
Well, it would do the Monument, obviously it would go first from Monument Avenue as far as they can with the funds, and then it would go all the way. Through South Shire for the additional funds.
Okay.
And just to be clear, our expectation, but we won't know until the bids come in, is that we would do the entire South Shire neighborhood in this first phase. But again, because we don't know, if we get the same bids that we got for the water pressure project, we think we'll definitely be able to do it. But if the bids come in significantly higher per foot, then we may have to think about how we phase it.
Okay, great.
But we do have that $5 million, and we're going to stretch it as far as we can, which is why it's very fortuitous that we have these funds that would help with the pressure that we can use to both address contamination and pressure at the same time.
All at the same time.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to bring up is I had a letter from Vermont DEC about a meeting on the 24th. I hope you're aware of that.
I am. I didn't know if it had been finalized yet or not. They're kind of back and forth about the time, et cetera. Okay. But I think it's going to be, and Jonah was working on it, trying to finalize the details. I think it's going to be at 7:30 here at the firehouse on the 24th, where they'll be updating folks on the state's efforts.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure, knowing how government works, that you actually knew about it.
I do, and I would say to you, that's your chance as folks that live in that neighborhood to come to that meeting and say to the state, hey, you guys need to make sure this gets done and find the money for it.
Yeah, and I'm going to extend that invitation to everybody in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for coming tonight.
I appreciate the time.
And if you want to see the map specifically, because my horrible explanation was not very articulate, I'm happy to discuss that with you.
I'll email about it.
Okay.
If you can just send me a picture.
Yeah, I can send you that phased map.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Upcoming agenda.
No,
we got one more?
Ninja Path update.
Ninja Path update.
Okay,
Sorry,
I'm going to
Jim.
do this one really short. If you have questions, happy to answer. Bottom line is, we thought we might not be able to do the next phase fully from the pedestrian bridge all the way to the Hampton Inn, but fortuitously, again, so this is good news financially. The bid came in well below what we thought, and we were able to negotiate a change order so that we can go back to our original scope, as you guys had contemplated, and at actually slightly below the cost that we had specifically asked you to authorize. So we're moving forward. Construction may start as soon as July. One wrinkle is the prefab bridge that needs to go over a large drainage way probably won't be ready till spring, so we may not have that bridge in place until spring. But all the other work we expect to have done this year, and we can have simple kind of work around because there's an existing wooden bridge, so folks will be able to use the path while that new bridge is being fabricated. So that's all good news moving forward, and obviously we still have the big nut to crack for that last phase, and we don't have an answer for that yet, but we're continuing to pursue options. That's all I have.
All right.
I get questions.
Go ahead, quick.
I'm reading about a bridge. I thought a bridge was already done.
We did. We did a large bridge across the Furnace Brook, and then we have a much smaller, although still much bigger than I would have hoped for, bridge across a drainage way behind Hannaford.
And you have a contract to do it, meaning our highway department won't be doing anything.
The highway department will not be doing anything on this phase, and I do not have a contract yet. If you read the fine print, and I don't expect you to, we're still waiting for the state to approve that change order. Once they approve that change order, we will have a contract to do the entire project. Right now, we have a contract to do a portion of the project, but subject to this change order, if it's signed by the state, which we have been informed they will, then we can do the whole project.
And the force account we heard about last year that was going to make life wonderful, is the state still saying no?
State's still saying no. We haven't given up on it yet, though.
Okay. Are we?
I know Jim hasn't either, so
are
he's
we
pretty
to the
tenacious.
point? Where do we get done where we can't say, okay, if we don't do it, the taxpayers have to pay back money? Are we to that point yet?
Not yet. As long as we're making good faith efforts to proceed, and we do have some other options that we're considering.
Where does this end? At the Bennington College flashing light?
Yes. Yes, the Ninja Path, as it's been known, essentially goes from Bennington College to the footbridge.
And when it's there, we have no more commitment financially?
On the Ninja Path, that's correct.
Any place else where if we don't do it, the taxpayers pay it back?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that has to be finished that we've scoped out already, but I'd have to go back.
And
look
we
at the
have enough
project
money
list.
left in the $2 million grant and the nearly $400,000 the taxpayers kicked in?
To do this section?
Yes.
Yes. The answer is yes, and we will have money left
But
over.
there's more after that.
And we have money, we'll have additional money, grant money left over. We'll have to evaluate how much of that, what we need to make up as to finish the project.
Okay, could you get something ready to show us how much it's going to cost to finish the project?
Yes.
For what you don't know now?
Yep, we have that information. We presented it many times, and we can present it again. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Other business. Next meeting, we have Economic Development Committee.
Yes.
We have the BBC work plan.
Yes, I forgot to highlight that one, yes.
That's what I have that is imminent. We also have sand filter discussion at some point.
That's going to come on the 13th, which will be the next meeting, 7/13.
Okay.
Tom, you had asked, we don't have to do it, but you had asked for us to propose restrictions on
River Street parking.
the River Street, Depot Street intersection, so we'll certainly present that if it's still on the agenda after we talk. And I do have, pursuant to Jackie's request, if you folks want to do this on the 22nd, Mark Andrews is going to present some options for crosswalks there at the Depot Street Bridge. And we could do that on the 22nd, or we could postpone, but I do have it down.
We're also well overdue for the BPT to come in.
Yep, that's a proposed agenda, subject to the chair's approval, and whether or not we're ready for boards and commissions, that could also go on there.
Dan, is there any reason the highway department and town staff, working with V-Trans laws, can't decide where to put crosswalks?
Certainly we can.
Okay, I just didn't know why we need the BCRC.
Well, Jackie had asked for us to maybe do some creative traffic calming there. So it's, the basic rule is you just put a crosswalk in, but maybe we consider a raised crosswalk. Maybe we have rapidly flashing beacons. Those are the things that Mark's going to talk to you folks about, and you guys will choose an option, and assuming we have funding for it, we'll do it. And it'll also be discussed with RJ, the DPW folks, before it comes to you to get their input.
Okay. Well, options tax will be on the next agenda?
Yes.
We're expecting to hear from, yes, the Economic Development Committee will be in to present their ideas around that, so.
Yes.
So will this be the only thing on the agenda separate from them, or we're going to hear?
I am sure we will have many discussions around that, including public hearings and.
Well, I think it's a setup. That I can read minutes going back to January where people are plotting and planning options taxes. We haven't had a public discussion.
You're about to have one.
We're about to have one.
Yep.
Because there's no point in discussing things until we have actual ideas.
And information
discuss.
and facts.
And, information.
Yeah.
I don't know who she's talking about, but I'm not plotting or planning anything.
Well, have Jim and Jackie and Clark have options taxes been part of the discussions at the town office in their meetings?
I think we'll find out when they present next week, or the next agenda item.
They'll discuss,
Oh, and I'm going to start
make all that
attending
clear
those
then.
meetings. Will that be a violation of open meeting law?
No, as the meetings are warned now.
Yeah. And
That's
minutes are
fine.
taken and posted.
You don't have a quorum problem?
And nobody's names have to be shown in the minutes? I've never seen minutes like that in my life.
We show who attends the meetings. That's what we need to do.
No, the minutes I read, I didn't know who was there from the committee.
Shannon, you do the minutes. They have attendees, right? Yeah.
You might have read maybe notes from once we started posting the minutes, they all have the attendees listed. So I'm not sure which minutes you were looking
Well,
at.
the ones I looked at were on the town website. I didn't see any names, so I'll go back. Maybe they've been updated.
They're going forward, all of the names are in every meeting.
Anything I missed there, Dan? I think we
Only
we have stuff to do.
We're going to be repainting the compass. I forgot to mention that tomorrow at the Four Corners.
Oh, okay. Very good. Other business? Ed?
I want a big reach out to the town staff to thank you all for the collaboration with the Village of Old Bennington and the repair of the horse fountain at the junction of Monument Avenue and West Main. I heard this morning that first look went well, and we have a pathway to reconnecting it and being able to use it. So thank you to the town for that.
That's good news.
Nancy?
I'm requesting the chair reach out to the LCT. I'd like to know if Vermont state law requires local voter approval for a select board to start a new town reserve fund.
I can tell you that definitively they do not. In fact, there's an explicit statute on point, but...
You said it does not?
It does not.
Okay.
And VLCT is available to all of us, not just the chair.
Well, I just wanted to get the official answer, because when I was looking online recently, I don't know if it's a state law or statute, H, there was 6 numbers, and that's what I read, local voter approval is required.
So it is for a dedicated reserve fund that is not subject to the select board's control, but the select board can create its own reserve funds on its own motion, and it does not require...
You mean town officials can start reserve funds without select board approval?
Well, no, what we do is we put them in the budget and show you the reserve funds, and you approve them. If you don't approve them, they don't stay, they're not in reserves.
And we've talked about this many times over
Many
budget
times. All the reserves are listed every year in the budget. We go over them, you folks approve them. Those are all perfectly appropriate and considered best practice to have reserves to deal with specific issues.
And last question, I would think we would be having discussions as far as the Bennington Community Market, as far as our loans go. I'm very concerned how, I didn't even know about the second one. I read $118,000 extended revolving loan. Is that in addition to $200,000?
No.
No?
Nope.
No, that's just...
Okay, so, no, but it was...
They're not, so then they're opening tomorrow, right?
They're going to be open Tuesdays through
No.
Saturdays.
I read the article. The business is done as we knew it.
That doesn't mean they're still not open. They're still current on their loan.
Well, I went by Sunday. There was a car out front. I went to the door. It was locked. Somebody had peeled off the sign that shows the hours they're open. You know, I
They're
found...
undergoing a change. Could we, yeah.
We have no control over their private nonprofit, Nancy.
But
And
Dan,
unless they default on their loan, we don't have a role to play.
But what did it mean when it talked about in the banner that the town agreed to, was it, I don't know, I got the article here. The town agreed to take over, be in charge of something. There wasn't a nonprofit large enough to take care of it.
No, they're talking about administration of the loan, of the HUD funds.
That's the HUD.
About the what?
HUD funds.
Yeah, that was...
The
The town
And we've discussed this many, many times in the past.
Yeah. The article didn't get everything right, but essentially the reason that the town was involved in the grant is because at the time when they requested one of these community project funds, this congressionally directed spending, they didn't have a 501c3 yet, and so they asked the town to submit the application. So we are just the fiscal agent. We've already done our part.
We're done, yeah.
Okay, there's no more grant money, okay? So that was the piece that they were trying to get at, I think, in that article, but they didn't quite get it right, but that's the facts.
But the business has ended as we know it. They won't have to pay back any of those HUD funds or federal funds?
No, they don't have to pay back the federal funds because they're a grant. But the business is still open. They're just restructuring and, reducing staff. They're open tomorrow.
Oh, but
they're not closed.
Shannon, would you let us know if they default on their loan payment?
Of course,
and then
that's my
regardless
job.
about it,
The only interest of this
if
board
they
is if they
believe
default.
me, I will let you know if they come to me and say, we're closing. It'll be, that's the story was not we're closing. It's we're pivoting. That's what a board is supposed to do. That's their job as a board is fiduciary responsibility, just like your job is as a board. So that is literally their responsibility.
So, and I know he said he was a new board member. He talked about $118,000 extended revolving loan. That is not in addition to the
No.
200.
No. That's not in addition. No. So it's just saying, look, they're current on their loan, they're current on their rent, they're open. That's, I mean,
And we have
so
no
our job is
indication of a
if they're delinquent on their loan, you're going to know that. If they are closing and then they have to pay down their loan, then we have, their collateral is on their equipment, okay? And so we would know, they would have to sell their equipment and pay down the rest of the loan. But that's not what's happening.
But the business was presented. The people work there. They wouldn't run the bakery, the grocery store, the deli.
Any of these types of questions, Nancy, are actually more aptly put to their board than ours, because
Shannon,
we have absolutely no control over it.
Haven't you worked with CAPA, the group from Bennington College, and the other groups they network with on these projects?
We're in way deeper than we need
I'm
to
sorry,
be.
this is not the business of this board, so maybe you could discuss this afterwards.
Shannon,
If we want to have a presentation and discussion on the community market, we should put it on the agenda.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The point for the town is that they're current on their loan. Just, they're not.
But Shannon, I'm aware when they got the loan, the town had to push the time back. They couldn't afford to pay it. So the town pushed it back 6 months or a year.
They just pushed it back till they opened.
I'm sorry?
I said,
We pushed it back
we're not
till they
here to
opened.
debate
it's really important that we don't put misinformation out.
Thank
And so the point is that they started paying the town loan as soon as they opened.
But the people employed to work there, they don't have the staff to work there.
Is none of our
to do
business
what they've done in
Unfortunately,
the
it's
past,
not our
correct?
business.
We don't run the community market.
It's not our business, Nancy.
Chair, I'm uncomfortable
You should go
discussing.
down there tomorrow
Shannon,
and talk
I
to
stopped
whoever is opening the market.
Shannon, I went Tuesday at about 3 o'clock, you're watering the flowers. I go inside, there's nobody working.
Mr. Chair, point of order. I just heard the town manager tell us he's uncomfortable with the conversation. I am
If you're going to
too.
have a conversation with the community market.
We
that's-
cannot discuss another board's business, and that's improper as heck.
And we can raise issues under other business, but we
I just
we
want to
shouldn't.
follow up on what the
We
people
shouldn't
were
have.
promised.
Nobody knows we're talking about the community market tonight. So raise the point. You're concerned about the community market, and we should follow up on it, and as needed if we need to. So other than that,
Extended
we
discussions
should
improper.
not be involved in a discussion of the community
Okay,
market.
so after hearing, the town surveys that people want a grocery store. Well, I think there's been a lot of changes, but.
Mr. Chair, I have
Nancy,
something for other business.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So Northside Drive is, the physical infrastructure is bad, and I think we can all agree that it has been bad for decades, and it probably will be bad for decades in the future unless we do something about it. So I would like to, as we know, it's owned by the state of Vermont, right, that road, and it's their problem, but it's our problem. So
It's our problem.
So I would like to engage with V-Trans and maybe connect with them through Representative Corcoran to begin discussions about how we can finally address those problems with Northside Drive. If that's okay, I would like to make the initial contact.
And you're talking from where to where?
Northside Drive.
No, Northside Drive, well, Northside Drive, I would say Kosher Drive, Northside Drive from the Route 7 where there's going to be a future project, but at least all the way out to where 67A comes in and 7A goes north.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
So you're wanting them to do it. We had a lot of discussion about that during the...
I want to begin to have a discussion, and that's the only thing that's appropriate to talk about at this time.
They can do it, I just need to know, they can do it before they do the rotary, or the rotaries.
You're asking a question that can't be answered at this
We
point.
need to have a discussion.
Well, I would think Jim might know.
Plot away, Jim. Plot away.
Plot away.
You're talking, you want them to look at the road on Northside Drive.
He wants to open a discussion
I want to
around
open a
that.
discussion about how to get the infrastructure problems fixed. And it's a long, lengthy, complicated discussion about a lot of issues and a lot of procedures. So I just want to be able to start the discussion.
But if you have anything that's relevant to this board, you'll bring it back to it.
We will see where it goes,
All right.
but yes.
Thank you, Jim. I'm in support of that effort.
Yeah, same.
But I'm just trying to understand. That was discussed when we talked about the rotaries, correct?
We discussed the fact that there's problems with Northside Drive, and like now I'm saying I would like to start engaging in discussions about how to fix those problems.
Jackie?
Thank you. I would like to wish everybody a happy Pride Month and remind everyone that there will be Bennington Pride happening again this year on June 27th. That's a Saturday this year in downtown Bennington from 11 to 4. And if you're interested in signing up to march or event or anything, you can find all the details on their socials, their website, wherever. Happy Pride.
And I would just like to let everyone know that the 21st of this month, which is Father's Day, it's the summer solstice, it's also International Make Music Day. There is an effort underway for Bennington to participate in that. So there will be music all over town, and you can find that on all of the socials. Just search Make Music Day, and you'll be able to find events that are going on around wherever you are.
Thank you.
I think that's it. Could I please?
I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.